Sunlight pierced through the clouds, illuminating a magnificent estate. A luxurious carriage slowly came to a stop, and an honor guard stood at attention on both sides. This is the log recording Ma Xian's speech habits. Your Majesty, brother, do you need to read it too? A man dressed in splendid noble attire appeared. He had short red hair and brown eyes. He was the emperor of the empire, Veged. Ivna lowered her eyes. If you read it, you'll see that Merlin hit a boy. I have nothing to say. John and Veged both lowered their heads. Ivna spoke. Please raise your heads, both of you. That's the only way we can properly begin this parent conference, isn't it? John Dissart, commander of the Grand Temple Knights. She smiled as she looked at the document in her hands. This alone made it the 10th time this month. John Dissart, the youngest commander of the Grand Temple Knights, whom even great nobles found hard to meet, and Veged, the supreme ruler of the empire. Even they were no exception, bowing their heads before Ivna. Ivna clasped her hands together, smiling brightly. Well then, let's begin. My name is Ivna. I'm a teacher at Belchester Rondell Kindergarten, in charge of the Sunshine class. I am someone who transmigrated into the world of a novel. And as for my Sunshine class, Ivna took a deep breath. Hello, teacher. A little girl with long pink hair and blue eyes came running over. She was the heroine of the original story, Merlin, the youngest daughter of the Grand Temple. Ivna smiled back. Hello there. Merlin threw herself into her arms and hugged her tightly. Hello, teacher. Another little boy appeared, with red hair and brown eyes. He was the male lead of the original story, Crown Prince Maxian. This class was full of heirs from prestigious families. Ivna sat in front of the piano. Who wants to sing with teacher? Me? The children all raised their hands eagerly. If only it were always just like this. But this was, after all, a novel. The novel began like this. At last, the debutante ceremony I had long awaited. 18-year-old Merlin walked onto the terrace. There she met Maxian. That was their first meeting. But they hadn't met at 18. They had met in kindergarten. The original story had only been distorted, not completely shattered. I had simply chosen my profession from my previous life in order to survive. Kindergarten teacher. Who would have thought the protagonist would meet so quickly? Merlin suddenly swung her fist and punched Maxian in the face. Maxian frowned. Idiot. A flash crossed Merlin's eyes. That's a bad word. I couldn't afford to be careless. I had to give it my all at all times. And so this kindergarten became the best educational institution in the empire. Merlin, Maxian, Ivna cried out, staring at the two children tangled together in a fight. Goodness, in this world, these tiny little kids could pull each other's hair more efficiently than any adult. Ivna struggled to separate them. Maxian clutched at her clothes, while Merlin tugged at the hem of her skirt. Everyone, no more fighting. So let us return to the present. Ivna smiled. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I am a children's homeroom teacher. Ivna looked at the two guardians. One was the emperor, and the other was the commander of the knights. These are my students' guardians. Veged repeated in confusion. Guardians? John spoke up. I'm Merlin's older brother. Please be at ease. Ivna bit her nail. How exactly am I supposed to be at ease? Veged closed his eyes. To think I've actually been summoned here. I hope this is worth it. Ivna felt crushed under the pressure of their presence. Her smile slowly stiffened. But I can't back down here. She forced her smile back into place. Then, I'll be direct. Children at this age are very lively. Their large muscle groups are developing, so naturally they move around often. The secret to handling guardian conferences: first, lay the groundwork. Second, lay the groundwork. Third, still lay the groundwork. First, you have to reassure the guardians that the child doesn't have any major issues. Then they'll start asking questions on their own. Veged set his teacup down heavily. You said you'd get straight to the point, but your introduction is too long. Ivna continued. Like this, sometimes they cannot control their strength, and in the end they may hurt other children. A gleam flashed in Veged's eyes. Are you saying someone dared to lay hands on a member of the imperial family? John hurried to smooth things over. Oh my, it seems my little sister is rather mischievous. Veged's voice turned icy. Mischievous, you say? If you die for insulting the imperial family, my younger brother will be very sad. The people of the empire would be the saddest of all. After all, that would be an unjust death. There has never been a precedent of surviving after insulting the imperial family. And you call that unjust? John gave a light laugh. How pitiful. A royal family that cannot endure even the slightest criticism. Ivna's heart tightened. Perhaps I shouldn't have called them both here together. She cleared her throat. Merlin and Maxian, the two children, hit each other. Both men froze at the same time. What? John looked incredulous. Impossible. Merlin treasures even the bugs that crawl past. Veged narrowed his eyes. Maxian has always faithfully followed the imperial family's etiquette education. Ahmed took a sip of tea. That's what I thought too when I read the original story. But this is an age when impulses are hard to suppress. More importantly, the real problem lies elsewhere. If this keeps up, the two of them will have a hard time getting close to their classmates. Ivna smiled. The youngest daughter of the Grand Temple and the Empire's only prince. No one would dare treat them lightly. Yet no one dares approach my younger brother or sister. Those words might as well be written across both of their foreheads. Of course, I will do my best to guide the children. Ivna kept smiling. But I also need your help at home. The room fell silent. Look at this silent reaction. What a pair of complete beginners at child-rearing. But compared to other guardians, they were already like gentle lambs. No, more like tame beasts. At times like this, I have to seize the stiff atmosphere firmly. Ivna cleared her throat. Well then, John broke the silence. I will have a proper talk with her. Ivna turned to the other person. And your majesty? Veged pressed a hand to his forehead. I will as well. I can have the Imperial Education Officer. Ivna's eyes turned firm. That won't do. You must speak to Maxian personally. Veged lifted his head. Teacher, do you know who I am? I know you are the supreme ruler of the Empire. Veged stared straight at her. Then you should also know how much time it cost me to come here. Here we go again, another power struggle. Ivna sighed inwardly. Her smile did not falter. Since your majesty made time to come despite your busy schedule, I'm sure that means you care even more about Maxian. What? Why? If you dislike it, then dismiss me for it. Veged abruptly stood up and leaned over the table. You. Ivna did not retreat in the slightest. I've already died once. What is there left to fear? Ivna clasped her hands. Did I go too far? He is the emperor, after all. Maybe I was too careless. John broke the silence. The teacher is right. Smiling, he added, a person who neglects his family while making excuses is truly pathetic. Ivna waved her hands in alarm. Hey, don't provoke him at a time like this. And what's with that smug expression? John smiled as if to say he had done nothing wrong. You're the commander of the knights too, sir. Ivna looked at John. What? Her hands trembled slightly. It was an occupational disease, a condition where, even at the risk of being beheaded, I still had to say what needed to be said. This was a desperate struggle not to be shaken during a parent conference. Veged and John both fell into thought. Ivna took a sip of tea. Of course, raising children is the hardest job in the world. Merlin came running over. Teacher, Ivna asked Merlin. John said with a smile, my little sister really is a clingy one. Come here, Merlin. Merlin stopped, then turned around. John opened his arms. Come, my dear Merlin. Merlin abruptly turned and ran in the opposite direction. She threw herself at Ivna and hugged her tightly. Pretty teacher, I love you. Ivna softly called Merlin. Merlin's cheeks flushed. Teacher, will my brother get scolded because of me? Ivna's heart swelled. She's too adorable. Ivna smiled and patted Merlin's head. I was only praising Merlin for being a good girl. Really? Of course. A voice came from outside the door. Hey, you can't just barge in there like that. Maxian rushed in. Ivna turned to look at him. Maxian froze when he saw Veged. Your Majesty, a stern voice rang out. Maxian, why were you so rude to your classmate? Maxian lowered his head. Ivna gave a small cough. Sorry, Your Majesty. Merlin hid behind Ivna. Wow, Maxian is in trouble. Ivna smiled at the children. You two should not have barged in during consultation time. Let's end today's consultation here. Inside, Ivna breathed a sigh of relief. The children's sudden entrance had broken the deadlock, and the Knight Commander had just been ignored by his little sister. At that moment, John had entered a petrified state because his sister had ignored him. Ivna called out, Your Majesty, there is something I'd like to discuss with you in private. Veged turned to look at her. What is it? Ivna looked up at Veged. He's so tall. Merlin tugged on Mashian's hand. Teacher, let's go outside. All right. Veged stepped closer to Ivna. Your Majesty, what I wanted to say just now was, Ivna forced herself to stay calm. Wait too close. She hastily stepped back, and her hand accidentally pressed against Veged's chest. Why is he standing so close? Ivna's cheeks instantly flushed red. I touched his chest. Ivna panicked. Your Majesty, Your Majesty's Ave. Avna suddenly thought of an excuse. The bookshelf is about to fall apart. It looks very old. Vejid reached out and steadied the shelf. It looked almost like he had her pinned against it. Avna said, this bookshelf is too old. It looks like it could topple over at any moment. In Ivna's eyes at that moment, Vejid seemed almost filtered in a flattering light. I'll have someone come repair it. Feeling awkward, Avna slipped out from under his arm and moved aside. Ah, it's fine, Your Majesty. Vejid looked puzzled. Teacher, what was it you wanted to say? Avna gave a light cough and covered her mouth. Though I hesitate a little, I like to discuss how we address each other. Vejid's gaze sharpened. Forms of address? Between you and me? Avna continued. One of the most important parts of education is having an appropriate relationship between guardian and teacher. To achieve that, please repeat after me. Avna clasped her hands together, smiling brightly. Miss Teacher. Vejid remained expressionless. Teacher. Avna's smile did not waver. It's not that hard. Mississippi Vejid's pupils contracted. He looked embarrassed. Teacher. Mississippi Vejid struggled to force the words out. Miss Teacher. Avna smiled in satisfaction. Very good. Avna continued. From now on, please address me like that while at the kindergarten. And one more thing. Avna raised her index finger. This may be even more important. When they start to back down a little, that's when you press the advantage. Avna declared, we will use formal speech with each other. That means that in front of the children, we must not use informal speech. Vejid fell silent for a moment. I understand. He let out a breath. Ah, this feels much better now. Then may I say what I wanted to say? Avna smiled. Of course. He's perfectly capable of speaking politely, so why was he being so stubborn before? Vejid said, please come to the Imperial Palace. Avna looked a little surprised. The palace? Me? Vejid's tone remained calm. Think of it as a home visit. Avna stood frozen in place. Is he asking me out? Is this some fantasy romance version of would you like to come up for a cup of coffee? Except from a guardian, of course. Avna smiled as she declined. I cannot meet privately with a student's guardian. Vejid continued. This is the first time I've seen someone refer to a home visit as a private meeting. Teacher. Avna kept smiling. May I ask whether there is any special reason for the home visit? The corner of Vejid's lips curled upward. A reason? His hand gently touched Avna's cheek, then slipped into her hair. The air froze instantly. Vejid leaned down close and whispered by Avna's ear. Because I need to see you alone. Vejid murmured, there are many things I want to know. Walls have ears here. Avna's cheeks burned. I'm also very curious about you, teacher. Of course, most of it concerns Maxian. Vejid straightened up. I'll take it that you understand. Goodbye, Miss Teacher. Avna was still startled. Why'd he lean in so close? Vejid raised a hand and plucked a tiny scrap of paper from beside Avna's ear. Teacher, you had a bit of paper by your ear. Yes, thank you. Avna watched his departing figure. He wants to know about me? Avna fell into thought. 5 years earlier, rain poured down in sheets. A young maid whispered, did you hear? They say the master is going to enter Miss Lillian into the family registry. Another maid responded in shock. But Miss Lillian is the daughter of a mistress, and she has only been at the estate for a month. The older maid rebuked her. Child, what does that matter? Miss Lillian has that. Lightning flashed outside the window and thunder roared. The older maid emphasized, heaven's gift. She covered her mouth with her hand. That's the one thing Miss Ivna could never obtain, even if the sky collapsed. One ironic truth. The younger maid quickly stopped her. Hey, stop talking. But the older maid was unconcerned. A winster without talent. It's absurd. She continued in a low voice. Whether it's talent or anything else, Miss Lillian surpasses her in every way. A bright flash swallowed her figure. The young maid gasped. Good heavens. Ivna was standing outside the door. What do you mean like a wind stir? The maid said, Miss Ivna, I don't know, that's why I'm asking. What exactly does like a wind stir mean? Ivna's eyes turned cold. If you don't tell me now, I feel like I'll go mad. The older maid waved her hand impatiently. What nonsense are you talking about? You're so troublesome, Mississippi. Please go inside. Ivna walked closer. From the way you all speak, I, this so-called young lady, sound like a stray dog no one wants. The younger maids whispered among themselves. What's wrong with her? Has she gone bad? Ivna stopped walking. Is it because I don't have that talent you were talking about? Ivna sighed inwardly. I really transmigrated into the wrong book this time. But I have a serious occupational disease. Ivna folded her arms, her smile icy. When I see rude children, I don't let them off easily. Ivna looked at the maids. Well then, which one of you wants to be the first to sit in the reflection chair? Lightning split the night sky, illuminating her face. The maids clung to one another in terror, trembling. The Winster Count's family was very special. Every member of its bloodline was born with exceptional talent. Some had beautiful voices, some were physically gifted, and some were good at business. They stood out in every field. Though the Winster family did not have a long history, those talents had allowed them to rise into the ranks of the central nobility. But for the first time in the family history, a child with absolutely no talent had been born. Ivna sat alone in a dark room, hugging her knees, her body small and thin. That was me, right? Ivna's expression was dim. Her cheeks were slightly red, as though she felt lost. Drops fell from the ceiling. One by one, the water landed on Ivna's head. Her hair grew damp. This possession was a mistake after all. I had already figured out the basic plot of the Winster family. Ivna raised 3 fingers, but the protagonists haven't even been born yet. I am that talentless Ivna Winster, a 17-year-old girl entirely unrelated to the protagonists. Ivna clenched both hands on her knees so hard her knuckles turned white. A voice came from outside the door. Sister Ivna, so you're here. Lillian smiled brightly as she ran over. I've been looking for you everywhere. This dazzling child was my half-sister, Lillian, along with my 2 mortal older brothers. Ivna turned around. What is it? Lillian grabbed Ivna's hand. Let's go eat out together. Father said he'll buy us something delicious. Ivna looked puzzled. Why so suddenly? Until now, he had only ever given us dry, tasteless food. Lillian innocently suggested, let's invite your fiancé, Marquis Maxian, too. Ivna froze slightly. Hadness Wildchung? He left for his own territory yesterday. Lillian's smile stiffened. Oh, is that so? She looked disappointed. What? Why would she be disappointed? Ivna's older brother suddenly cut in. Hey, you should have covered for it better. Was there any need to say it like that? He reached out and grabbed Ivna by the hair. What are you? I was going to endure the embarrassment and take you along, but now you've irritated me. What kind of nonsense is that? He was just venting his anger for no reason, and no one stepped forward to rebuke him. This was shaping up to become a disaster. Ivna replied calmly. Why should I cover for my own fiancé? What? Are you insane? How dare you talk back? Ivna's older brother burned with rage as he seized her arm. Enough. A middle-aged man with a mustache approached. Don't make a scene in front of the servants. He grabbed his son's wrist. Father. The man's face was grim, his tone cold. Ivna looked up. Yes, father. A sharp crack rang out, echoing clearly through the room. The chandelier trembled. Light and shadow swayed. He hit me over something so small. The man pressed a hand to his chest, his posture arrogant. A person without talent should live as though dead. Not like you. Lillian has displayed yet another new talent. It was her first time trying to shoot, and she hit 6 out of 10 shots. That proves Lillian possesses the same talent as the first Count Winster. A gift. Lillian covered her mouth with both hands, delight shining in her eyes. Today's outing is to celebrate that. The man looked at Ivna, his gaze icy. On a day when everyone should be happy, you ruined my daughter's mood. I am your daughter too, father. Ivna clenched the hem of her skirt tightly. What exactly am I? Or rather, what is Ivna to you? I should argue. I should be angry, but my body would not move as though it had been domesticated. Ivna lowered her head. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. Don't worry. Father, I'm fine. Lillian took father's arm. Then let's let sister rest. Hurry, let's go. I am hungry. The man answered gently. All right. Lillian, today you may do whatever you want. They turned and left, leaving Ivna alone. Their footsteps gradually faded down the corridor. Ivna kept her head lowered and did not move. In this house, I am worth less than an insect. Ivna walked through a sunlit garden, the breeze brushing her hair. At least no one will disturb me here. Unlike my room, there is no mildew here, and the roof doesn't leak. Would smashing something make me feel better? Ivna's gaze fell on a small table. A revolver lay there quietly. It had been prepared for Lillian. Should I try firing one shot? Ivna picked up the pistol, the cold metal pressed against her palm. She skillfully opened the cylinder, loaded the bullets, then raised the gun and closed one eye to aim. A loud bang shattered the silence. The recoil was stronger than she had expected. Ivna staggered back a step, her arm numb. Whoa! A flock of birds rose in the distance. They flapped toward the sky. Wait, Ivna looked down at her hands. That movement just now? How'd I know how to use a gun? This body had never been trained, yet it was as if everything came naturally. At the center of the target, a bullet hole smoked faintly. A perfect bullseye. Was it luck? Ivna held the gun. She did feel a little better. That was louder than I expected. If I get caught, I'll be beaten again. I need to get back quickly. Ivna turned and hurried away, tossing the gun back onto the table as she rushed back. Night fell. The Hadness Marquis estate blazed with light. A hand brushed over a page covered in tightly packed writing. Ivna leaned back, stretched, and yawned. It's already the 29th, isn't it? Time flies. Bride lessons during the day, paperwork at night. They're practically using me like a servant. Ivna stood up, deciding to get some air, when she heard laughter. It came from Hadness' room. A woman's voice came through the crack of the door. Stop that. Hadness, my lips are going to split. I'm going to look through the gap. Her heart sank. A man's gentle voice replied, sorry. You're too beautiful. I couldn't help myself. That man was Hadness, my fiancé, and the person with him was Lillian. She smiled like a flower, like a painting carefully drawn. Lillian's voice came from inside. Am I pretty? Really? Prettier than Sister Ivna? Ivna's heartbeat skipped. Why are Hadness and Lillian? Hadness gave a low laugh. Ivna, you picked up a thorny rose. My engagement to that gloomy woman was merely a means to get you. Lillian, Ivna stood outside the door, her body rigid. The hand holding her fan trembled. Lillian, Ivna's pupils contracted. Candlelight flickered in her eyes, as if it might go out at any moment. Lillian bent down, burying her face in Hadness' neck and shoulder. Hadness, my engagement to Ivna was only a way to marry you. Lillian whispered, but even so, it's hard to endure. I grow jealous. His words coiled around her like thorns. The legitimate wife's daughter has no talent at all. How pitiful and pathetic. At least you're decent at paperwork, so just cling to that little bit of skill. After all, you have no other talents. Ivna jolted awake. A sharp pain stabbed through her chest. The candlestick in her hand dropped with a clang to the floor. Ivna stumbled as she rushed from the room. She gasped for breath, moonlight falling over her anguished face. A ragged sound tore from her throat. She staggered through the moonlit woods, dizzy and nauseous, but there was nothing in her stomach to bring up. Tears slid from the corners of Ivna's eyes. It hurts. She clutched the fabric over her chest tightly, panting. How had I endured this until now? A voice came from afar. Miss. A horse came galloping toward her. The rider shouted anxiously, Miss, quick! Ivna turned in terror. She collapsed to the ground and screamed at the charging horse, get away. The horse's hooves rose high and came crashing down. Blood splattered, staining the night red. Ivna's arm fell limply, and she sank into darkness. Ivna sat bolt upright. She gasped for breath, eyes wide with terror. A maid stood by the bed, her tone filled with shock and impatience. Miss, you startled me. What on earth is wrong? The maid put her hands on her hips. Since you're awake, I'll say it directly. Stop fainting all the time. You're such a burden. Ivna looked around. A wooden bed frame. An unfamiliar ceiling. This is my room? Ivna touched her cheek. The sensation felt so real. I was clearly struck by a carriage. Ivna turned to the maid. What day is it today? The maid sneered. Can't you even count the days anymore? The 4th of Imperial Calendar Month. Ivna's pupils abruptly shrank. The 4th? She said the 4th? A flood of memory surged through Ivna. Wasn't it the 29th? Hadness stood by the bed, looking at Ivna. Ivna, are you all right? You suddenly fainted. I was very worried. Ivna looked dazed. Hadness, why are you here? Hadness replied, in confusion. What do you mean? We just had lunch together today. Ivna's gaze sharpened. If he came to the Count's estate, then it truly is the 4th. Did I really return to the moment before my death? Hadness kept talking, smiling brightly the whole time. I want to gather my thoughts, but this guy just kept chattering. Ivna said expressionlessly, Hadness, you're too noisy. Could you leave? Ivna stared at him coldly. Your voice makes me feel like I'm getting stupider by the second. Hadness looked completely taken aback. Getting stupider? He turned and left. You must still feel terrible. I'll go first. See you later. Ivna sat on the bed, sunlight spilling through the window over her. If this isn't a dream, then there is only one thing I have to do. In the corridor, 2 maids whispered. Did you hear? Miss Ivna has gone crazy again. So scary. Can't she just behave herself? Ivna suddenly appeared, startling the maids. Do neither of you have anything better to do? The maids panicked. And Miss Ivna held a document in her hand, her gaze firm. Move. I'm going to see Father. The maids tried to stop her. The Count is very busy right now. If it's to submit a document, we could deliver it for you. Ivna's gaze turned cold. A murderous aura seemed to spill out. The 2 maids stiffened. They trembled all over. A man appeared in the doorway, frowning. What's all the noise? One maid pointed at Ivna in a panic. My Lord Count, the young lady, she... Ivna looked up at the man. Oh, Father, perfect timing. She raised the document in her hand. Saves me the trouble of going in. Since you're here for me, I'll say it directly. Hadness shouted, Ivna. Ivna did not change expression. She simply stood there calmly. Hadness grabbed Ivna's arm. What is this? An application to remove yourself from the family registry? You must be delirious from illness. Hadness looked flustered. Let's hurry and have the Count treat you, all right? Avna violently shook off his hand. I'm far more clear-headed than you. And also, grabbing someone's hand without permission is sexual harassment. Ivna turned around, a bright smile on her face. Oh, right. I prepared a gift for you, too. She held out a document to Hadness. This is for you. Hadness took it. What is this? Ivna's smile did not fade. Open it and see. It's a notice of broken engagement. Hadness' eyes widened. What does this mean? Ivna declared, I am ending our engagement. Lillian rushed into the hall. Sister, what is going on? Ivna turned to look at Lillian. Oh, my lovely little sister. You're here. Ivna shoved Hadness toward her and then turned to Lillian. Take him. Lillian, my position, my fiancé. Everything I am throwing away suits you better. Ivna turned and left, ignoring the shocked looks behind her. Miss Ivna really has gone insane. The maids whispered from afar. But why would she give Miss Lillian her fiancé? Another maid replied softly. Haven't you heard that rumor? Last time, Lillian stood rooted in place, fists clenched, a dark glint flashing through her eyes. The air around her seemed to freeze. Ivna returned to her room. Finally, I did it. She let out a long breath. Thank goodness I escaped that damn house. If I'd stayed there any longer, I really would have gone mad. She walked toward the wardrobe. I need to pack my things and see. She opened the wardrobe doors and froze. It was completely empty. There was only a single notebook lying there. She picked it up and opened it. Today, I confirmed it. On the paper was Ivna's delicate handwriting. I like the first Count Winster. We have the same talent. A scene flashed through Ivna's memory. The image of the first Count and Countess. Wait, wasn't Lillian supposed to be the one with that talent? Ivna sank into thought. Ever since I woke up in this body, I haven't felt any special ability. Perhaps if I keep reading, there will be some clues. Driven by curiosity, I went to the shooting range. Ivna sat on the ground, recalling the scene. All 20 bullets hit the bullseye. I secretly played Father's violin, a street tune I had heard only once. I was able to perform perfectly. I stole my brother's old language textbook in the Lion Kingdom tongue. Though the alphabet was unfamiliar, I quickly became able to read it. A talent for languages, a talent for commerce. Could all of these have been the talents the original Ivna possessed? A flash of golden light crossed her mind. The talent had belonged to her all along. Her thoughts returned to the present. Ivna looked back, smiling brightly. I'm off to kindergarten. I became part of Viscount Belch's household. When I fled my family, trembling in fear, Viscount Belchist had appeared like a savior and took me in. But the Viscount's finances were not good, so to help out, I found work at a nearby place, Rondell Kindergarten. It felt as though even the wind had given me a push, bringing a bit of good fortune. Magical engineering was on the rise in the empire, and knowledge and skill had become vital. Nobles who once considered study and work shameful all threw themselves into education. Academies were no longer mere social venues, but true halls of learning. Kindergartens, as institutions of early childhood education, also received unprecedented attention. 2 years later, a kindergarten craze swept the empire, and Ivna stood at the center of it. Ivna, a voice pulled her out of her memories. Viscount Belchis called out to her, a little embarrassed. Sorry to stop you on your way to work, but could you attend tonight's charity masquerade ball? Ivna looked troubled. I can go, but I'm worried someone might recognize me. Viscount Belchis touched his cheek, looking dejected. You're right. If it would make things difficult for you, then forget it. Then his tone changed. But it is a masquerade ball. Ivna's eyes lit up. Then that's no problem. I'll go. A masquerade ball. Because I owed Viscount Belchis so much, I simply couldn't refuse. Looks like I'll be working overtime after work, wearing a mask and holding a glass of champagne. Ivna looked out of place among the crowd. Sigh, this is so boring. After I get home, I still have to organize today's report and this month's event schedule. Hey, a rough voice interrupted her thoughts. A childish voice shouted angrily. If you step on someone's foot, you should apologize. Ivna followed the sound. Children's voices. She quietly watched from behind a door. A black-haired boy was surrounded by several older children. The boy explained quietly, I didn't step on it. Another boy snapped angrily, don't talk back. Ivna frowned. Are the children arguing? Or are several older ones bullying a younger one? One of the older children arrogantly demanded, Hey, do you know who I am? The black-haired boy showed no fear at all. I don't. The older child was enraged. You little brat, how dare you talk back? He raised his fist. The black-haired boy covered his mouth in fright. This is bad. Alarm flashed in Ivna's eyes. At this rate, it'll turn violent. She set down her glass. She was about to step in when a hand landed on her shoulder. "You'd better not interfere." A masked woman she didn't know stopped her. "Just stay where you are like everyone else. Don't move." Ivna froze. "What?" The woman whispered. "They are all children of the central nobility. That bullied child is pitiful, but there's nothing we can do." Ivna's pupils narrowed. "The central nobility?" The woman continued. "They look about 8 years old. Just stay quiet and keep to yourself." Ivna shot her a glance, then decisively turned away. Her heels clicked crisply against the floor. These little troublemakers. Fury rose inside Ivna. "Stand right there." The children all turned at once, looking confused. A brown-haired boy tilted his head up. Who are you?" "Madam?" Another boy challenged her. "You don't know who we are either?" The guests whispered among themselves. "Oh my, how brave she is." Another person sneered. "That's not bravery. It's stupidity." One of the older boys blustered arrogantly. "My father is the Gopeng Marquis. I'll tell him everything." Ivna lightly touched her mask, smiling coldly. "Go ahead and tell him." She casually took off her mask and threw it to the floor. With her hands on her hips, Ivna said, "Danian, Hatchel, Reepel. I was just about due for a visit to him anyway." The children stepped back in fright, stammering her name. Teacher Ivna. Teacher Ivna? Could she be from Rondell Kindergarten? The guests sucked in sharp breaths. The hall fell deathly quiet. The guests' murmurs rose one after another. "That's the famous lady best known for disciplining children." Ivna's eyes were sharp. "Danian, Hatchel, Reepel." She enunciated each name one by one. "Haven't you learned how to greet a teacher? Cornering someone like this? Is that what your teacher taught you?" The children trembled all over in fear. Ivna put her hands on her hips and looked down at them. "Has it been so long since you were disciplined that you're shaking from fear?" She continued to scold them. "You little rascals. Bon." Ivna's voice stopped short. A masked man stood there, tall in stature, his bearing imposing. Bantad broke free from Ivna and rushed toward the masked man. "Brother." The man spoke. "Bantad, what happened?" The boy stammered. "Brother, Ivna's heart tightened. "Brother? That man is his brother?" In that overwhelming aura, the guests immediately fell silent, not daring to gossip anymore. The man lowered his head and asked, "Was there a fight?" The boy answered softly, "Yes." The man's gaze shifted to Ivna. "Was it a fight?" Ivna came back to herself. "Hello, I'm a children's teacher. It's nothing serious. The parents will be here soon as well." The man asked back, "Will the parents crawl here?" "No, they're people. I imagine they'll walk." Ivna pointed toward the entrance. "Look, your parents have arrived." Ivna turned to the children. "Danian, Hatchel, Reepel, bullying cannot be treated as a simple mistake. This time, it is entirely your fault." "Yes." Two masked couples hurried over. The man gave a low laugh. "Oomph. So it's the Gopeng Marquis." "Gopeng Marquis, what did you just say?" Ivna's voice was steady. "This was not a fight. It was one-sided bullying. As their teacher, I sincerely apologize." The Gopeng Marquis held his son and scolded, "You useless thing." The man gave a cold laugh. "I really should say that to you instead, shouldn't I?" The Gopeng Marquis was furious. "You, what did you say?" The Gopeng Marquis flew into a rage. "Have you lost your mind? Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me like that?" The man curved his lips into a cold smile. "Enough. I heard your son provoked my younger brother. Has the Gopeng family never learned not to fight a battle they cannot win? Or is it simply pure stupidity?" He removed his mask. The Gopeng Marquis staggered back in shock. "Ha!" The guests whispered. "That man is—" The Gopeng Marquis's face went deathly pale. The man's face was revealed. Deep red eyes, a cold gaze. "Caden Hildebrand." The Gopeng Marquis immediately bowed deeply. "My deepest apologies." A noblewoman whispered, "Good heavens, that arrogant Marquis, actually." Ivna watched the scene. The Gopeng Marquis is bowing? A duke's status is certainly far above that of a Marquis. But the name Hildebrand, why does it sound so familiar? Ivna touched her chin, sinking into thought. Hildebrand. Wait, Ivna suddenly realized. Could it be him? Her pupils shrank. Fear spread across her face. That Hildebrand Grand Duchy. Ivna's thoughts were dragged back to reality. The family known as Hildebrand, the one infamous for its brutality, the demon ducal house that slaughtered even its own kin. She stared at the man before her. Caden Hildebrand, the demon duke himself. Ivna's body began trembling uncontrollably. Her blood seemed to freeze. Caden angled toward her, his eyes cold and sharp, as though piercing straight through her soul. That look was no different from the man in her memory who slaughtered his own family. A cold voice echoed through the darkness. Are you an idiot? Of course people are alive before they die. The silhouette of a man emerged. He kept his head lowered. For your own sake, you'd be better off just begging to die. He lifted his chin. The sight of you is unpleasant. So boring it's disgusting. The one who said that was Bantad. Ivna stared at the adorable little child in front of her. The contrast is way too extreme. He was clearly like this when he was young. A childish voice rang out. Brother, I'm hungry. A small hand tugged on Caden's sleeve. The terrifying prince, that adorable child, was Bantad. What on earth happened to him when he grew up? A girl fell to the ground. Bantad pointed at her. Someone fell over there. Caden looked indifferent. So? Bantad looked up at him. Shouldn't we help her? Caden looked down at Bantad. That is not your problem to solve. I think I know who he learned it from. Avna thought for a moment, then stepped forward. May I say something? Caden turned toward her. What is it? The pressure he gave off was extraordinary. Ivna raised her head. It's just, Caden, but what must be said must be said. You should not leave a child by himself. Children at this age are easily drawn to novel things. You must be especially careful. The servants nearby whispered. She is actually lecturing the Grand Duke, and she even spoke for more than 5 lines. Bantad looked up worriedly at the teacher. Will she be okay? Ivna swallowed nervously. Caden stared at her in silence. He slowly stepped closer and looked down at Ivna. Ivna did not dare shift her gaze. A teasing curve appeared at the corner of Caden's lips. At last Caden said, I will be careful. He looked at Ivna. Teacher. The next day, the noble kindergarten teacher was hard at work again. Ivna sat at her desk and let out a long sigh. I really wish I could have spoken to him a little longer. I was too hesitant yesterday. She looked out the window. I shouldn't have let Bantad go like that. That villain from a story. Ivna sighed again. A black-haired woman entered the room. Teacher Ivna, there you are. The woman handed her a book. Please take a look at this. Ivna accepted it. A book? The woman replied, yes. I found it while cleaning the library. The woman continued. It's written in an ancient language. I can't read it. Teacher Ivna, perhaps you might recognize it. Ivna took the book. Let's see. She opened it. Her pupils suddenly shrank. This is not some ancient language. On the page were familiar square-shaped characters. It was Korean. Ivna abruptly looked up. May I borrow this book? The woman nodded. Of course. Just return it before the faculty meeting. Why would Korean appear in our library? Why would it even exist in this world? Hugging the book, Ivna ran out of the room toward the library. Ivna stood in the library, holding the Korean book in her hands. What kind of book is this? The words on the page were unmistakably clear. Ivna Winster is a villain. Ivna rapidly flipped through the pages. Did I misread it? But the same sentence appeared again on the next page. Ivna Winster is a villain that no one in the world wants to associate with. A bolt of lightning seemed to strike Ivna's mind. His eyes widened. The text in the book read, let me say it again, Ivna. Winster is the most evil woman in the world. She was always going around declaring that she would kill the saint. Ivna froze all over. Kill the saint? Why would I ever do something like that? More words appeared on the leaf. In the end, the final villain was led to the guillotine. A crowd gathered to watch his final moments. For using black magic forbidden by the Empire, Ivna Winster was sentenced to death. The Imperial Knights would be sent to the Grand Duchy of Hildebrand to subjugate his accomplices. Ivna's heart skipped a beat. Wait, sentenced to death for using black magic. The Grand Duchy of Hildebrand. Ivna's pupils dilated. I remember now. Rain washed over a gloomy castle. The reason Bantad fell into ruin. A green leaf. Raindrops slid down. Ivna smiled. Guardian, sir, I would like to speak with you. I want to recommend Bantad for enrollment at Rendell Kindergarten. She pushed a letter of recommendation across the desk. The recipient was Great Duke Caden of Hildebrand. Hildebrand. Ivna folded her hands and said earnestly, please give it positive consideration. Caden sat across from her and picked up the paper. Kindergarten? Ivna leaned forward. Please let him enroll. Great Duke, I must prevent your younger brother from becoming the villain of the story. Caden's gaze rested on the paper, thoughtful. A scene flashed through Ivna's mind. Your death will bring about his fall. A figure collapsed. Blood dripped from his body. A hand reached into empty space. Caden looked at her coldly. I refuse. Ivna's smile froze. What? She hurriedly explained, our kindergarten is a professional educational institution. I believe it would help Bantad. Caden leaned back in his chair. If it's professional education, he is already receiving it. No, I have to intervene. Ivna insisted. Developing social skills is the foundation of a child's growth. Getting along with children his own age will broaden his horizons. Caden's fingers tapped the desk. He's reacting. What could be more important than peer relationships? She took a deep breath. He undid the first button of his collar. Ivna's cheeks flushed. Why is he suddenly unbuttoning his shirt? Could you take another look at the documents? If Bantad is accepted, he will be placed in my class. Caden picked up the paper. The problem is, Bantad is my half-brother. I worry he will be ostracized because he is an illegitimate child. Ivna smiled confidently. You needn't worry. She held out a hand. Please look at the last page of the document. Caden turned to the final page and looked up in confusion. What is this? Teacher Ivna clasped her hands together, eyes full of expectation. The children in my class wrote letters to welcome Bantad. Merlin held up a letter with a bright smile. Caden looked at the page. I see. Teacher, but when did Bantad's name become 8/10? Great Duke. Caden held up a drawing. In childish handwriting, it said 8/10. I Merlin. Ivna's smile froze in place. Her mind went blank. She forced out a stiff smile. Haha, is that so? Somehow, before I knew it, Bantad's name turned into. Caden raised another letter. In childish writing it read, to 8/10. From Merlin of the Desat family. 8/10. What kind of name is that? Ivna's body stiffened, and her pupils contracted sharply. What? Beneath the sunset, the estate fell silent. Caden set down the letter. This letter certainly made an impression. He had only just read the addressee's name. Ivna smiled brightly. We'll be going on a spring outing soon. It will be a very good experience for Bantad. Caden's gaze sharpened. Slap something? No, Bantaf. Ivna thought inwardly, what a disaster. Sitting across the table, Ivna said, recently I heard news from your Grace's territory. I hear you've been working hard on education for your people. Caden's lips curved into a smile. You are very well informed. Yes, that's right. Ivna was inwardly alarmed. Why is he smiling so frighteningly? It looks like he's about to explode. How scary. Ivna kept smiling as she said, our kindergarten is the Empire's first formal early childhood education institution. Right now, regardless of status, everyone is investing in early education. Caden tapped his chin. You even concern yourself with other territories? Caden's eyes turned sharp. What exactly are you trying to say? Ivna maintained a perfect smile. Your Grace must also follow the trend. If you want to establish a strong educational institution in the ducal territory, you need to understand kindergartens. It would serve as an excellent reference for educating the people of your land. With the sunset behind him, Caden said, a reference? You're certainly confident. He folded his hands. Please continue explaining this so-called qualification for admission. Ivna's smile grew even brighter. Yes. Bantad lowered his head, hands clasped in front of him. My name is Bantad, Hildebrand. Hello, everyone. Merlin suddenly leaped up from his seat and shouted, It's Slaptad. It's Slaptad. Ivna raised a hand to stop him. No, Merlin, not Slaptad. It's Bantad. Bantad blushed red. And no, my name is Bantad. Even he couldn't say his own name clearly. Merlin stood up. Bantad, sit next to me. Another girl stood as well. No, sit next to me. The two girls rushed toward Bantad at the same time and crowded around him. Ivna smiled. Bantad, go sit by Martian. Ivna walked up to the podium. Everyone, it's story time. Today's book is the story of the arithmetic knight. Bantad trotted over to Martian. Ivna picked up an envelope. HM. She looked at the seal. A letter from the palace. The spring outing location has finally been changed. The spring outing will be at the palace. Ivna's expression changed. What? We already finished surveying the site. We had planned to go to the park. The headmistress remained calm. Her explanation was that the palace proposed it first. We cannot refuse such a generous offer. A flash glinted across the headmistress's glasses. It was an unquestionable decision, symbolizing the unshakable reality of power. Ivna forced a smile, but that means we'll have to redo all the surveying and planning. Surveying. Ivna went pale. One female teacher said, right? My house is scheduled to catch fire today. Another said, the roof tiles at my house are sick. I absolutely cannot work overtime. Ivna forced a stiff smile. It seems everyone is very busy. I'll go on behalf of everyone. Sunlight poured over a splendid building. Ivna stood before it, arms hanging weakly at her sides, working overtime on a luxurious day off. And the palace is so far away. This world doesn't even have taxis. Ivna stared blankly. HM, the coachman held out a hand. If you're going to the Hildebrand Temple, the fare is 67 fil. Is that right? John smiled. In that case, I'll trouble you for the ride to the temple. Ivna peeked from behind the door. That man is Merlin's older brother, Commander John. Ivna looked at John's profile. He was smiling so brightly, yet extorting money. The coachman trembled all over. That much just to go to the temple? John suggested gently. How about 47 fil? The coachman stiffened. HM, what? Ivna came out and looked at John. John stepped forward with a smile. Hello, Teacher Ivna. Guardian sir, what a coincidence meeting you here. But Ivna's smile froze. Ivna questioned the coachman. Are you really charging 67 fil for a trip to the temple? The coachman jolted. Igriegajis. Yes, so what? Ivna suppressed a laugh. Sorry, I just couldn't help it. When I see someone charging an outrageous price, I can't help getting angry. The coachman's eyes widened. Outrageous price? You're saying I'm overcharging? John looked puzzled. Overcharging? Ivna put her hands on her hips. How can you overcharge someone this innocent? The coachman flushed red. It's such a long distance. This price is already cheap. Ivna crossed her arms. I'm a local. Who do you think you're fooling? Ivna raised one finger. Knock off 20 fil. How about 47? John chimed in as well. 47 fil. The coachman stared in disbelief. 47 fil? That's not even enough for horse feed. The coachman kept lowering the price. 67, 55, 53, 50. Ivna refused to budge. 47, 47, 47, 47. The coachman stomped in fury. Miss, you're too much. How can you refuse to compromise even a single coin? Ivna's gaze remained firm. 47 fil. She looked unwavering. If you keep this up, I'll find another carriage. 45 fil. John tried to persuade her. Teacher, 2 fil is not a large sum. You don't need to do this. Ivna replied sternly. That money could buy Merlin 3 of his favorite candies. The coachman finally gave in. Fine, you win. Ivna smiled proudly. You should have agreed from the start. She turned to John. He'll take us. 47 fil. John smiled. Thank you. Teacher, you saved Merlin's 3 candies. By the way, where are you going? I have business at the palace. Then John held out a hand, inviting Ivna into the carriage. John smiled. Let's go together. The corners of his eyes curved gently. All right. A carriage rattled along a forest path. Sitting inside, Ivna thought, this is so uncomfortable. I hate carriages. A memory flashed through her mind of being run over by a carriage in her previous life. Her thoughts were pulled back to the present, but I can still endure it. Teacher, John noticed that something was wrong. Are you all right? Ivna came back to herself. Yes, I'm fine. John watched her silently, without a word. Ivna's hand quietly clenched atop her skirt. John spoke. Teacher, inhale for 3 seconds, then exhale slowly for 7. Ivna looked up in confusion. John took out a pocket watch. If you're carsick, try to calm down. I'll count for you. He focused on the watch. Start. 1, 2, 3. Ivna closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Lilies bloomed outside the window. Now exhale. Ivna slowly breathed out. I feel a little better. Ivna opened her eyes. Thank you. I feel much better now. John put away his pocket watch. It helped, didn't it? When Merlin gets carsick, this is how I calm her. John smiled. I'm glad it worked for you. Teacher, Ivna fell into thought. John really is a considerate person. Then she suddenly thought of something, right? As commander of the knights, he must know the saint better than anyone. Ivna asked. I heard a new saint was chosen. John confirmed, yes. It's been about 4 months now. Ivna's eyes lit up. I see. What kind of person is the saint? After all, that's the person I supposedly tried to kill. I need to know. Ivna clasped her hands, smiling broadly. He must be very kind and beautiful, right? John rested his chin in his hand. Well, John recalled, he is kind to everyone and always smiling. John added, he's also quite romantic. Ivna clasped her hands. As expected, an amazing person. The saint's work must be very difficult, truly admirable. The carriage jolted violently, and Ivna lurched forward. Ivna's pupils shrank. In an instant, Ivna lost focus. John sensed something was wrong. Teacher. Ivna suddenly snapped back, breathing rapidly, a suppressed whimper escaping her. Ivna trembled all over. Teacher. Her body shook. She began to sob. John looked at her with concern. Are you all right? Ivna lifted tearful eyes. I am sorry. My motion sickness reaction is a bit severe. The carriage continued on down the road. Ivna suddenly cried out. John immediately crouched down and held her. Teacher. Guiding her, he said, breathe deeply. Who? Ivna gasped with difficulty. Who? John's voice was steady. That's right, just like before. Inhale, exhale. Watching Ivna, John prompted, inhale. Ivna's hand trembled. John held it tightly. She followed his rhythm, inhaling, exhaling. Who? John continued. Inhale. Ivna's breathing gradually steadied. John let out a breath of relief. At last, Ivna's breathing had become even. The two of them remained in that position. The carriage stopped. The wheels screeched sharply. The coachman opened the door. Hey, we're at the palace. Hurry up and get out. Ivna first lifted the curtain. A magnificent palace came into view. Ivna said softly, we're here. Ivna held John's hand tightly. Thank you, Sir Guardian. Ivna suddenly let go. I'm sorry. That was rude of me. John smiled and shook his head. It's all right. Teacher, please go in first. John asked, will you be all right at the palace? I'm really fine now. Ivna added, if your hand is injured, please be sure to demand compensation. John replied with a smile. All right, I'll add interest too. He turned and walked toward the palace. Ivna watched him go. A man wearing glasses stepped forward. Teacher Ivna, you've arrived. I am Viscount Chupin. I am in charge of guiding you through your inspection schedule. Ivna smiled awkwardly. Hello. You're working hard, even on holiday. Viscount Chupin replied, not at all. You're working hard as well, teacher. Ivna made a request. Could you show me the rest area first? That's the most important thing for the children. Viscount Chupin nodded. Certainly. This way, please. The two walked side by side along a garden path. Viscount Chupin explained, there's also a garden attached here. There are no high steps or sharp decorations. It is very suitable for children. Looking at a pavilion, Ivna said, oh, we just need to clear away a few stones. Viscount Chupin pointed into the distance. There is also a greenhouse inside. It contains many rare plants. It would be perfect for teaching purposes. Ivna exclaimed, that's wonderful. Ivna asked, may I look around slowly by myself? Viscount Chupin handed over a pass. Of course. My task was only to guide you here. Please take this and tour freely. Ivna accepted the pass. Congratulations, you've completed your mission. Viscount Chupin looked troubled. And no, I still have other work to do. Holding the documents, Ivna said, this is the Annex Palace. It used to be used often for social gatherings. Ivna looked at the pass. It seems my authority only extends as far. Ivna looked toward a distant fountain. The fountain could be dangerous. I'll have to keep the children away from it, but they'll definitely love it when they see it. A voice called out, Ivna. Startled, she turned around. HM? A blond man approached her. Ivna recognized him. Your Highness. Highness Verchin, Ivna's former fiancé. He seemed to have grown gaunter. John sat on a throne, chin resting on his hand. Ivna. Winster. Ivna. Belchist. The man cried, I truly don't know anything. Please, please. John asked, what should be done with this man? Where's the saint? A man knelt on the ground. He went out, probably to write some romantic story again. John's eyes turned icy. Drag him away and dispose of him. The man was dragged off, screaming in despair. Please, spare me, spare me. The screams tore through the air. Resting his chin on one hand, John thought, every day I only see trash like that. It always feels a little strange. John closed his eyes. This feeling is like being eroded. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, scattering mottled spots of light. Ivna stood in the courtyard, hands clasped before her, looking tense. Don't panic, Ivna. Hadness approached with a teasing smile at the corner of his mouth. What is that expression? Ivna, is it really you? Ivna gave a slight nod. It's me. I heard the Marquis household had run into trouble. Looks like it was true. Ivna raised a hand to touch the red ribbon at her chest. Stop looking so stupid. Hadness strode forward and grabbed her wrist. Stupid? More importantly, where exactly have you been? Do you know how long I spent looking for you over the past 5 years? Ivna raised her hand. Enough. Don't come any closer. Hadness roared. How can you act so unconcerned after running away from home like that? Hadness fumed in anger. Whatever. Go home and beg the Count. Ivna closed her eyes and calmed herself. Count to 3 and run. Look at his eyes. He's about to get violent. Hadness pressed closer. 1. Ivna clenched her hand. 2. Ivna suddenly spun around. Hadness reached out in surprise. Ivna, where are you going? 3. Ivna vanished from where she stood. A voice rang out. Oh my, Sister Ivna. Lillian was standing there. Lillian wore a sacred white robe, surrounded by a soft glow. Lillian smiled faintly. It's been a long time. Have you been well? Ivna turned and brushed past Lillian. She just ignored me? Hadness followed behind Lillian. I left the temple specifically to see you. And you're just leaving without saying a word? Temple? Ivna paused. A thought flashed through her mind. Those clothes and that emblem. Why is he wearing temple clothes? Lillian lowered her head with a slight smile. I was busy with the Saints adaptation period, so I came late. The Saints adaptation period. Ivna's heart sank. That meant the adjustment period of a new saint. Could it be? Lillian lifted her head, smiling sweetly. Oh, Sister Ivna, you're still here. It seems you still don't know. Lillian folded her hands before her. I was chosen as the new saint. It is a great honor. Ivna replied softly. Is that so? Congratulations. She lowered her gaze. Wait, if Lillian is the saint, then in the original story, was Ivna trying to kill her own younger sister? Ivna turned away, thoughts in chaos. I need to sort this out. Ivna's eyes turned cold. Hadness, let go. Hadness grabbed her arm. Do you have any idea how much trouble I had after you disappeared? You're completely irresponsible. I'm gonna try to pull free. Let go of me. Hadness, this is harassment. Hadness asked in disbelief. Harassment? I'm your fiancé, Ivna. Ivna sneered. Do you really think that still means anything? Hadness refused to give up. Of course it does. A voice rang out. It is not. A hand seized Hadness' wrist and forcibly pushed him away. Especially since the two of you are already broken off. Begid appeared there. Hadness recoiled in fright. Why, Your Majesty? Begid's gaze swept past Lillian. Marquis Virchin took a nap during the Nobles' Council, yet you seem full of energy. His tone was scornful. Looks like all that was just to flaunt your power. This should be the busiest time for the saint, yet you seem rather idle. Is the temple in such disarray? Lillian curtsied. Please forgive my discourtesy, Your Majesty. We only acted that way because we had reunited with our precious elder sister. Begid arched a brow. Precious? Begid's gaze turned to Ivna, and a trace of a smile flashed in his eyes. I understand. She is a precious existence to me. Ivna was stunned, her eyes wide with shock. What? Ivna's body went rigid. The guardian cherishes me? For a kindergarten teacher, this was the worst possible development. Ignoring Hadness' restraint, Begid walked toward Ivna. I'm taking Ivna with me. Hadness lunged forward. Your Majesty. Ivna and I had an arrangement first. Begid lowered his gaze and looked down at him. Is that so, Marquis Virchin? Hadness shouted upward. Ivna came with me first. Begid cut him off. Louder. I can't hear you. Hadness' shout stopped short. A murderous aura radiated from Begid. He was seeing the Emperor's true wrath. Killing intent surfaced in Begid's eyes. What did you say? Hadness stammered. Ivna is. She is my. Begid's gaze turned vicious. Hadness instantly corrected himself. Am I? Nothing. Hadness collapsed to the ground. Begid turned, the killing intent gone from his face. Begid looked down at Ivna. Since you're unharmed, let's go. We still have an important appointment. Ivna looked puzzled. Appointment? The corner of Begid's mouth lifted. Don't we? The thing we promised to do together. The thing we promised to do together. All right, the home textiles. Ivna suddenly remembered. Begid pretended to be hurt. You already forgot. How heartbreaking. Ivna clasped her hands. But I really should be going back now. Begid asked in return. Really? The sun is still high in the sky, and yet you say you must leave. Do you mean to waste my precious weekend time here? Begid's gaze deepened. Do you really have to go? Ha! No. Ivna let out an awkward laugh. I'm very happy to keep our promise. Truly. Begid looked at her smiling face. Judging by that laugh, you really are very happy. Ivna smiled stiffly. Ha! Yes, of course. Absolutely delighted. Ha ha. Hadness pointed at Ivna. If you keep being this stubborn, then I'll have no choice but to tell Count Winster. Ivna replied expressionlessly. Then go ahead. Go tell father. Hadness froze. Huh? Ivna continued. Hurry along and tattle to the Count. Do you really think I'll help you salvage your bankrupt business? Ivna, you. Hadness trembled with rage. Begid stood at Ivna's side. She turned to him. Thank you, Your Majesty. Let's go now. Hadness shouted from behind them. Where are you taking her? I'm gonna look back. Oh, right. Lillian. A bright smile bloomed on Ivna's face. Congratulations on becoming the saint. I truly mean it. Please share my congratulations with Hadness as well. He looks like he needs them more than I do. A stiff smile remained on Lillian's face. Of course. Sister. Begid looked at Ivna. It's too cold here. Let's go to the greenhouse. Ivna replied with a smile. You're more delicate than you look, Your Majesty. A small petal fell from beneath Lillian's skirt. It had dropped from Ivna's dress. Lillian lightly stepped on it. The petal was crushed. Lillian's lips tightened. Ivna, do you think you can treat me like this and remain unharmed? Rage flared in Lillian's eyes. Phantoms of thorns and roses coiled around her. It was hatred without the slightest attempt to hide it. Sunlight filtered through the arched windows, pouring over a world of greenery. Ivna sat at the table, looking around. This is quite nice, isn't it? Begid stood behind her. Yes, it's truly beautiful. Begid bent down, close to her. They say if lovers come here, their love will last forever. Ivna let out a soft laugh. Is that so? Thank you for helping me earlier, Your Majesty. Begid's gaze softened. The outing location was suddenly changed. Don't you find that inconvenient? His smile deepened, a quiet test hidden beneath it. Sitting upright, Ivna replied, "Of course it's inconvenient." It forced him into overtime. "Still, I'm grateful that you agreed so readily." Ivna folded her hands. "If I'd known you were going to say that, I wouldn't have asked." Ivna sat there stiffly, pouting. She closed her eyes and smiled. "I willingly devote myself to work without rest or food. To exhaust this frail body of mine is an honor." Ivna asked, "Was there another reason you changed the palace work?" Veghid answered, "Of course there was." He sat down again, propping his cheek on one hand, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "A very important reason. About 2 years ago, Martian was nearly assassinated. A carriage was attacked in Aquilon Lake Park." Ivna's face went pale. The park, that had been the original outing location. Veghid closed his eyes. "I must have made quite a scene back then, didn't I?" Ivna widened her eyes. 2 years ago, Martian was only 3. Even I feel angry hearing that. How heartbroken you must have been then, Your Majesty. Veghid leaned forward. "You may call me selfish. I changed the location without warning. At least give me a chance to let you hit me for it." Veghid lifted a finger and tapped his own cheek. "Go on." Ivna looked at him quietly, with my palm on my fist. Veghid burst into laughter, his shoulders shaking. "I was joking, and you took it seriously." Ivna said sternly, "I'll let you off this time because I'm a pacifist." Then her tone shifted. "Rather than that, tell me more about Martian." Veghid's smile faded. "Very well, let's do that." Veghid wiped the tears of laughter from the corners of his eyes with his fingertips. "What was so funny that you were laughing? So hard you cried?" His gaze deepened. "Many people are not very kind to Martian, because he is not the Emperor's son, but his younger brother." Ivna thought it over. "I see. To those nobles who covet the position of Empress, Martian is an eyesore." Veghid agreed. As expected of a first-rate kindergarten teacher, the corner of his mouth lifted. "Exactly right." Ivna looked at him. "It must be hard for both Your Majesty and Martian." Veghid relaxed. "What? Do you pity me a little?" Ivna closed her eyes and laid a hand over her chest. "I only pity those who are naturally small and adorable." Veghid chuckled. "Don't underestimate me. For an emperor tormented day and night by eavesdropping rats, lending out a corner of the consultation room is nothing much." Ivna stared at him. "Consultation room? What are you planning to do?" Veghid replied, "Worry about the empire's future, stabilize the people's lives, or perhaps consider the safety of the rats." Ivna looked troubled. For a kindergarten, talking about rats all the time is a bit heavy. She recovered her smile. "If you come, I'll at least treat you to tea, as long as I get the headmistress's permission." Veghid closed his eyes and revealed a deeply satisfied smile. "I won't forget that promise." The sun shone brightly. A magnificent estate stood among the trees. Leading the children, Ivna said, "All right, everyone, no running. Line up and follow me." Ivna stood at the entrance to the greenhouse. "Next, we're going to tour the greenhouse." The children cheered together, yay. Ivna touched her cheek lightly. "This is only the first location. All the way here I've been looking after stragglers and picking up everything they dropped. My face is stiff from smiling." Ivna spread her arms. "All right, everyone, make 2 lines and go in." Merlin's eyes sparkled. "Wow, so pretty." The children entered the greenhouse. Merlin looked up in wonder at the huge flowers and fluttering butterflies. Standing among the children, Ivna said, "Aren't the plants here beautiful? How should we treat these little friends?" One child answered loudly, "We shouldn't hurt them. We should just look with our eyes." Ivna nodded with a smile. "That's right. If you touch the flowers with your hands, they'll hurt." Ivna slumped down beside the fountain and let out a long breath. At last, it was lunchtime. The children were eating on the picnic mats. Once they finished eating, I can finally grab a bite, too. Martian approached. "Teacher." Ivna came back to herself. "Martian, what is it?" Martian handed her a black box. "Merlin is gone." Ivna's pupils constricted. "What?" Martian lowered his eyes. "He said he was going to get water from his bag, but he never came back." Martian added, "We can't find him anywhere." Ivna shot to her feet. The children crowded around in alarm. "Teacher, Merlin." Ivna swept her gaze around. Chaos everywhere. Her mind raced. Ivna's gaze passed through the crowd, skimmed over the woods, and finally fixed on the darkness in the distance. Merlin. Under the bright sun, an estate stood at the end of the lawn. Viscount Chupin hurried across the courtyard with a stack of documents in his arms. Viscount Chupin looked up at the newcomer. "Oh, Teacher Ivna, weren't you out on field study today?" Ivna rushed to him and seized his arm. "Viscount Chupin, can we request support from the Imperial Knights?" Ivna's face was deathly pale, her voice trembling. Chupin asked what happened. Ivna's pupils trembled. A child has gone missing. Viscount Chupin's face twisted. What? I'll call someone at once. Ivna ran through the courtyard, calling out, Merlin, Merlin. Ivna cupped her hand around her mouth. If you hear me, answer. It's your teacher. In such a short time, where could he have gone? There must be dangerous plants in the greenhouse. Ivna's eyes fixed. One shoe had fallen into the water. Another floated quietly on the surface. Ivna's eyes went wide. And no, Merlin. Without hesitation, she leaped into the water. Merlin, where are you? Ivna was frantic with fear. Merlin. A hand seized Ivna's wrist. Stop. Teacher Ivna. John embraced her from behind and pulled her away from the pool. Let go of me. Merlin is still in there. John held her firmly. Teacher, get a hold of yourself. John cupped Ivna's face in both hands and made her look at him. Ivna stared directly at the guardian. John's eyes were gentle. He said softly, Teacher. Ivna cut him off. I think Merlin fell into the water. We have to save him quickly. John added, Please look carefully, teacher. Ivna followed his gaze. A leaf floated quietly on the surface, sending out ring after ring of ripples. John's voice came to her. It's only a leaf. Ivna murmured, a leaf. Lowering her head in shame, she thought, I lost my mind without even confirming it first. Soaked through, Ivna slumped beside the pool. John stood before her. A faint flush rose on her cheeks as she lowered her eyes. I am truly sorry. I should have been more careful. Ivna looked up, her gaze firm. I'll take full responsibility and make sure Merlin returns home safely. John looked at her quietly, then held out a hand. Let's look together, teacher. A smile appeared on his face. Ivna's face turned even redder. She looked flustered. John said softly, It may be rude of me to say this, but just now, teacher, you look like a child abandoned by the water. His smile deepened, his eyes warm. John knelt on one knee to meet Ivna's gaze. So please leave it to me, dear teacher. He was more shaken than anyone, and yet so calm. Ivna took a deep breath. I have to pull myself together, too. There's no time. Ivna caught a scent. That smell is. She suddenly spun around. A scream rang out. A huge thorny vine curled upward, hoisting Merlin high into the air. The vine rose skyward. Ivna screamed in terror. A streak of blue light flashed and severed the vine. John landed steadily. Ivna fell into his arms. In his hand was a glowing sword. John moved Ivna behind him protectively. This is why I hate the palace. John's gaze turned cold. There are bugs everywhere here. A massive thorny vine writhed before them, hissing. Merlin let out a peal of laughter. Merlin sat high atop the thorny growth and waved. It's Teacher Ivna. Merlin shouted happily. Teacher, this is super fun. Ivna went pale. Merlin. John stood before Ivna. Teacher, it's all right. I'll handle it immediately. Ivna grabbed John's sleeve. No, Sir Guardian. John explained. That is a parasitic plant called Calfida. It feeds on holy power. Ivna asked in alarm, Feeds on it? John explained, yes. The stronger the holy power, the worse the hallucinations. The thorny vine gave off a faint glow and slowly tightened. John added, That's why it could so easily lure Merlin in. Ivna's gaze turned grave. In the original story, something like this didn't appear until the middle of the main plot. I never thought they'd try to take Merlin away already. Ivna looked solemn. That thing uses people's weaknesses to tempt and deceive them. For someone like Lord Desat, with such strong, holy power, you're actually in even greater danger. Her tone was urgent. The odds of you being deceived are even higher than Merlin's. John listened silently, expressionless. Lifted high by the vine, Merlin giggled. Mommy, it tickles. John turned his face slightly, eyes lowered. Teacher. A huge golden gear appeared behind him, blazing with light. John swung his sword. Light flashed. The wind of the blade cut through the thorns. John's gaze was icy. The blade swept through the vine, slicing it apart in an instant. Leaves and fragments scattered everywhere. John turned toward the shattered remains of the vine. If I am disgracefully defeated, Ivna's eyes widened and her cheeks flushed. John asked softly, Will you run away? He turned to leave and said quietly, Don't look back. Ivna reached out in terror. No, don't go. John took a step, leaving decisively. Ivna cried out in despair. Lord Desat. Blood splashed across the ornate window. A tremendous crash shook the entire hall. With his white-gloved hand, John wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked down coldly, gripping a key tightly in his hand. A childish voice echoed, Mommy, push me higher. John searched for the source of the voice. Calfida was clutching Merlin, and Merlin screamed in excitement high in the air. John's gaze hardened. He drew his long sword. Light flashed. He lunged forward. Blood sprayed out. John's figure swept past the severed monster. Kalfida's head rolled to the ground with a faint whimper. Merlin cheered in the air. "Yay, I'm flying." Ivna screamed in terror, no? At that very moment, Ivna threw out her arms, her body acting before thought could catch up. Ivna sprinted forward and took a step. Ivna landed steadily, clutching Merlin tightly in her arms. A power she had never known before surged through her body, as natural as a child taking its first step. Ivna was frantic. "Merlin, are you all right?" Merlin giggled in her arms. "Teacher Ivna." Ivna held Merlin tightly. Sunlight poured over the two of them. At last, she was certain that she possessed the divine power of wind. Merlin lifted his little face. "Teacher, I was just with Mommy. We were flying in the sky." Merlin's voice grew softer and softer. His eyelids slowly closed, and he fell asleep in Ivna's arms. The divine interference was over. Holding the sleeping Merlin, Ivna saw John hurrying over. Teacher, are you all right?" John looked full of worry. Ivna merely stared at him in a daze. John called softly, "Hushie." Ivna's tears broke free. Clutching Merlin tightly, she sobbed. John looked at her. Good heavens. Choking back tears, Ivna said, "I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it in. It's so stupid." She laughed through her tears. "I didn't do anything worth praising." John watched her quietly, his cheeks faintly flushed. Sunlight filled the splendid courtyard. John's voice rang out. "All right, teacher." Kneeling on one knee, he held out a hand. "Your arm seems to be injured. Please let me see it." Holding Merlin, Ivna drew back slightly. "It's all right. I'm more worried about Surdasat." John closed his eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm Fina." John pointed to his abdomen. "Look." He met her gaze honestly. "I once been run through deeply by a sword, but I was healed immediately and survived." Ivna looked at him, eyes moist. John said firmly, "If my healing skills are poor, you may hit me. So please let me see your wound. I'll hold Merlin." Ivna hesitated for a moment. "All right, here." She held out her injured arm. A clear bruise marked it. John took her wrist, and a golden holy light flared up. The light enveloped Ivna's arm, and the bruise vanished instantly. Just now, in order to catch Merlin, she had leaped an astonishing distance. Could this be the gift of a wind messenger? John withdrew his hand. Ivna looked at her restored arm. "It's healed." A faint blush rose to Ivna's cheeks. "It seems there's no need to hit you after all." A scream split the courtyard. "Merlin, my baby." A group of people rushed over. At the front was High Priest Harvestasat. "Thank heavens, you really are all right." Merlin rubbed his eyes and slowly woke. "Daddy." John held Merlin. "Merlin is fine, Father, so please don't kneel in the middle of this mess." High Priest Harvest glared at Merlin. "You little brat, didn't Father tell you to stay close to your teacher?" Merlin laughed and wriggled free. "Daddy, don't say that. Mommy called me." High Priest Harvest looked stunned. "Your mother?" Merlin excitedly gestured. "Mommy called me to eat cookies. We even sang together." Spreading his arms wide, Merlin beamed brightly. Merlin was so happy. High Priest Harvest pulled Merlin into a tight embrace. "Merlin." High Priest Harvest's gaze drifted into the distance. It was the same that time by the lake. John looked at Ivna gently, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. "When Mother died, I couldn't do anything." The young John knelt by the lake, rain soaking his clothes. "I could only watch her leave." "I see now." Ivna suddenly understood. "So that's why." John's voice echoed in her memory. "Teacher." Ivna finally realized it. That was why he had been so panicked then. Ivna looked at John quietly, a trace of pity in her eyes. Holding Merlin tightly, High Priest Harvest shouted furiously, "You people in the palace actually let a creature like that roam around inside the walls?" Ivna blinked slightly. Truly, like father, like son, High Priest Harvest turned around. "I must request a private audience with His Majesty and find out how that monster slipped in." Golden light enveloped Ivna's whole body. Thanks to Teacher, the child was able to remain safe. Ivna looked down at herself. Her soaking clothes and hair became dry in an instant. Divine power really is amazing. Holding Merlin, High Priest Harvest walked toward Ivna, who stood there with proper courtesy. "Forgive me for introducing myself so late. I am Harvest, Merlin's guardian." Ivna looked up. "Hello, I am Ivna, Merlin's homeroom teacher." In a sincere voice, Harvest said, "Thank you. And I am also sorry, guardian." High Priest Harvest gently stroked Merlin's hair. "Please don't blame yourself. Not everyone can resist the temptation of that kind of monster." High Priest Harvest looked down at Merlin in his arms. We owe you a great debt. From now on, if it's about the kindergarten or teacher Ivna, I will agree to it. Ivna spoke up. Guardian, the monster you saw. John showed a faint smile. Ivna's thoughts raced. If that's really the case, then maybe the side stories about the saint I've read might contain something helpful. John's voice rang out. Teacher, why are you smiling like that? Ivna came back to her senses. It's nothing. That was the kind of dangerous smile only the heroine of a romance novel would have. I absolutely can't let anyone notice. High Priest Harvest spoke. Then I'll take the child back first. Holding Merlin, High Priest Harvest turned around, and Ivna quickly replied, all right. Please be careful on the way. Ivna gave a slight curtsy. I should be going too. If you feel even the slightest pain, please make sure to go to the hospital. John turned away. Thank you very much today. Sirtis sat. John strode off. Ivna watched his back and let out a long sigh. I can finally breathe again. Ivna pressed a hand to her forehead. I need to get back to the children quickly. A voice called out, Ivna, why is Winster here? Who is calling me by my savior's name? Ivna whipped around. A man in a dark suit stood in the light and shadow. He smiled faintly. It's you. Sunlight streamed through the arched windows, spilling across the splendid mansion. Ivna, Winster. Ivna's expression turned cold. She stood there silently. A man approached, his tone icy. So, Hadness, Marquis Hadness really has seen you. And you still have the nerve to show up here? Ivna tilted her head up to look at the man. Long time no see, brother. But there's something I need to make clear. I've always been here. You didn't find me. You appeared on your own. The man took a step forward, his footsteps echoing through the hall. You become bolder than the last time we met. Ivna folded her hands in front of her and asked calmly, what? Are you going to hit me? The man roared. Have you gone mad? He raised his hand and slapped at Ivna. Ivna shut her eyes and braced herself, but the expected pain never came. There was a flash of light. A sword had appeared between them, blocking the hand before it could come down again. John held his sword. There certainly are a lot of pests in this greenhouse. The man stared at John in terror. Didizat, Lord John. The man's voice trembled. Why are you here? John's smile was gentle. More importantly, what exactly is going on here? John's eyes were cold. I'm here to exterminate pests. It seems one is clinging to your arm. John smiled. Shall I crush him for you? John moved as if to cut off his hand. The man collapsed to the ground in terror, the pressure making his throat produce strangled sounds. No, John asked. Teacher, are you heading back? Ivna answered, I still have to take the children back. John lowered his gaze. I'll escort you. Smiling, John extended one white-gloved hand. After hesitating for a moment, Ivna gently placed her hand in his palm. Ivna smiled faintly. Then I'll gratefully accept. Thank you. On the street, colorful banners fluttered and merchants' tents lined the road. Ivna walked through the marketplace, deep in thought. What should I use instead of felt cloth? Ivna held a list in her hand. Oh, are they arguing? Voices were raised ahead. A merchant was confronting a tall, black-haired man. Get lost. Ivna hid behind the tall man and listened in. She couldn't hear clearly at first. Great Duke Caden Hildebrand? Why would the Great Duke be here? The merchant was agitated. How many times have I told you? We're a legitimate business. We don't deal in slave trading. Those words hit like a thunderclap. Slave trading? Ivna's pupils shrank. Caden's expression remained cold. I'm only here to buy a gift for my wife. The merchant refused to back down. Unless you bring your wife here, I won't believe you. He pointed at Ivna. Is that woman behind you your wife? Ivna stiffened. Oh no, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop on purpose. Hello. Ivna stood awkwardly between the two men. Caden glanced at her. Ivna was at a loss for words. Well, Caden put an arm around Ivna's shoulders. That's right, she is my wife. A blush spread across Ivna's face. The merchant looked the two of them up and down. Damn it, you're dressed so well, but your wife's clothes are in tatters. Ivna clutched her purse tightly. What a jerk. Damn it, I can't even deny that. Caden's expression darkened. Even the great Duke himself was left speechless. Then he suddenly gripped Ivna's shoulder. Not only were you staring at my wife right in front of me, you dare speak to her so rudely as well. Caden lowered his head. My dear, I'm hurt. Ivna's whole body went rigid. He continued to Ivna. This dress was bought for you by father. Did you forget? Both the merchant and Ivna froze. Then inspiration struck Ivna. Right. It was a gift from father. He bought it for me despite being ill. Caden asked in a low voice, my dear, shall I kill him? The merchant waved both hands frantically. And no, that's not what I meant. Ivna quickly shook her hands. No, My dear, that would be too much. Suddenly, an angry shout came from the distance. Hey, what are you doing over there? Run, it's a raid. The merchant panicked. What? Damn it, we're finished. Run. The merchant turned and fled, shoving through the crowd and disappearing around the corner. Caden released her. Looks like they'll have to relocate again. Caden asked, Teacher, are you all right? Avna lowered her head apologetically. Sorry, I was just curious, so I kept watching. But tell me, were they really selling slaves? Avna lowered her voice, one hand near her lips. If it's just confidential information, I'm very good at keeping secrets. Caden countered. If it's confidential, shouldn't you pretend you know nothing? His eyes shifted slightly. As you heard, slave trading has been taking place in secret lately. Ivna covered her mouth with both hands. Those lunatics. Caden's expression turned grave. And not only that, they're using magic crystals as their currency. Magic crystals? Ivna looked puzzled. Those are mined in the ducal territory. They were used in magic tower construction, right? Caden leaned closer and lowered his voice even more. Does it feel more like a secret now? Before rumors spread that I'm backing slave traders, I have to crush them with my own hands. Caden seemed to come to a realization. You're right. If or from Hildebrand is being misused. Ivna clasped her hands together, looking tense. Eliminate them all? What do you mean by eliminate? A murderous intent surfaced in Caden's eyes. Exactly what it sounds like. Ivna cleared her throat. I suppose this is a bit too complicated for me. Caden lowered his head. I merely answered your question. Teacher, the corners of Ivna's lips curled up. Well said. Damn it. This damn curiosity of mine is going to get me killed someday. Caden's lips curved. You're quite interesting. Ivna came back to herself. What? What did you just say? Caden adjusted his collar. Nothing. A mother cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, Hey, madam, please don't push your carriage forward. That day, sunlight shone on the academy spires. Another mother bent to her child and warned, Understood, Violet? You must be chosen. The road to school was far noisier than usual. Ivna stood among the crowd, holding a list. She looked somewhat bewildered. Ivna's green eyes widened slightly. She murmured softly, Is His Majesty really this free? Ivna looked at Beghid. Beghid said to Martian, that role will be yours no matter what. The long-awaited day for parents and students had arrived. Please come in one by one. John walked past confidently with Merlin. Looking up, Merlin smiled. The day to decide the roles for the school play had come. Bantad hid behind Caden, clutching the hem of his clothes tightly. Ivna stood on the stage, smiling gently, a roster in her hands. She cleared her throat and announced, Then, let's begin the casting for the first semester school play. The parents below instantly erupted, all raising their hands at once and cheering loudly. Ivna gave a helpless smile. Yes, the casting for the school play. She continued explaining. The way our kindergarten assigns roles is a little special. For the children, it may just be exciting. Merlin clasped his hands together, his eyes full of anticipation. But for the adults, this was a war over noble honor. Ivna continued. First, we decide on a theme. The children give presentations. Then we vote. Whoever receives the most votes becomes the lead. John and Beghid exchanged a glance. Both looked fully confident. Ivna turned around. And now, I will reveal this year's theme. With a flourish, Ivna pulled back the curtain. A blackboard was revealed. Written on it in gold letters were the words, This year's theme is your favorite thing. In 5 days, you will give a presentation on this topic. A noblewoman gasped. Goodness, isn't this the topic the Mother Salon predicted? Another noblewoman asked eagerly, Madam, is that true? I heard the Mother Salon has all kinds of golden information. Ivna smiled slightly. People are the same everywhere. At first, the nobles strongly opposed school plays, believing that singing and dancing were beneath proper tradition. But the lead of the play would always become the president of the Academy's student council. So the school play evolved into a fierce battleground tied to future advancement. Ivna folded her hands in front of her. All right, class is about to begin, so parents, please go home. Children, let's head to the classroom. The parents instantly stirred. A father asked anxiously, Teacher, what was my child's favorite doll again? A mother gripped her daughter's hand. Melissa must be the lead, no matter what. 3 hours of preparation, 3 minutes after the theme was announced. The parents scattered like a receding tide. 5 days remained before the presentations. Bantad looked awkwardly at Caden. Brother, I don't want to be the lead. The lead is scary. Caden crouched down and stroked his head. If I give you 20 chocolate sweets, would you do it? The boy's eyes instantly lit up. T20? I will. John stroked Merlin's hair. If Merlin becomes the lead, he'll look just like a princess. Begid spoke. Captain Desat, your younger brother isn't royalty, so he can't be a princess. At most, he could be the crown prince's consort. John let out a cold laugh. Ridiculous. Merlin's talent and potential are far more than that of a mere crown prince's consort. Agnes stepped in to mediate. All right, we're taking the children to class now. Please head back, everyone. Agnes bent down, her smile bright. Then, let's all go to the classroom together. Bantad blushed and raised his hand. Teacher, he held up 2 fingers. My brother said he'll give me 20 chocolates. Agnes smiled. Congratulations. Bantad, the road ahead is still long. Ivna walked down a street glowing in the evening sun. What kind of costumes would be best? I'll need to find a better supplier than usual. Ivna thought to herself. She came to a wooden door. Hello, I'd like to look at children's clothes. Suddenly, the sharp crack of a slap exploded inside the shop. Why would there be the sound of a slap in a children's clothing store? Ivna froze on the spot. A noblewoman in purple had raised her hand and was glaring at a woman in black across from her. Who dares say my child can't be the lead? The woman in purple roared again. Say it again. Say it again. Oh no. Ivna's mouth fell open in horror. Aren't those parents from my class? The woman in black clutched her cheek and swayed. What? Who are you to say whether my daughter can do it? The purple-clad noblewoman planted her hands on her hips, aggressive and overbearing. Was I wrong? You little wretch. The noblewoman in purple raised her hand to strike again. The woman in black widened her eyes in terror. Ivna suddenly rushed forward, stepping in front of the woman in black and taking the slap herself. Ivna was struck hard enough to fall to the ground. A vivid red handprint bloomed on her face. She looked up, stunned. Trying to mediate, Ivna said, everyone. Ivna was on the ground, supporting herself with both hands. Ivna, teacher. The purple-clad noblewoman covered her mouth in shock. Oh no. Teacher, what do we do? Ivna staggered to her feet. Yes, I'm fine. She forced a smile, but blood slowly began to run from her nose. Turning to the 2 mothers, Ivna asked, Parents, are you both all right? The noblewoman in purple pointed at Ivna's face. Teacher, your nose is bleeding. Really? I'm Euphina. Ivna wiped the blood away with the back of her hand. But what should have been a joyful school play had turned into a reckless competition, into a battlefield spiraling out of control. Perhaps we should consider canceling this event. Both mothers panicked. Teacher, no. My son has to become student council president. Teacher, please. Ivna closed her eyes, her smile gentle. Are the 2 of you still going to keep fighting? The 2 mothers suddenly came to their senses, clutching each other tightly. No, no more fighting. We've made up. Ivna nodded. Good. This is an event the children are looking forward to. We can't cancel it because of an accident. They clung to each other fearfully and answered in unison, yes. Of course. Ivna turned away. Well done. I'll be going now. Make sure to get along. The 2 mothers dropped to their knees, responding over and over. So this must be why the children have been so obedient after coming back from kindergarten. Ivna pushed open the door and pressed a handkerchief to her nose. Phew. I am exhausted. Handling even 1 parent is tiring enough, let alone so many. I even got hit. I just want to go home and rest. But I have to find a new supplier today. Ivna stopped at her tracks. The wooden door creaked open. Standing in the gap, Ivna stared. This place. This is where I once shouted my dear at Great Duke Hildebrand. I heard they were selling slaves here. Has the cleanup not been finished? Why is the door still open? A faint gasp came from inside. Manga. Ivna's green eyes flew open. That was a child's voice. No way. Impossible. Ivna hesitated, then stopped. Her heels clicked against the floor. Something glimmered in the darkness. Ivna suddenly pushed the door wide open. The creaking door gave way, light cutting into the dim stone interior as Ivna appeared in the entrance. Ivna's green eyes swept across the room. What's going on? I definitely heard a child's voice. But the only thing here is a staircase leading underground. Maybe I should call someone else. She paused. But right now, every second might count. Ivna made up her mind. I have to go down. Alone, she descended the cold stone steps. Her fingers brushed against something. She froze. A piece of paper. Ivna pinched it between her fingers. How did this suddenly appear? It's almost as if it's trying to lure me into reading it. Ivna unfolded the note. Her body trembled slightly. Her pupils suddenly contracted. This This is. Ivna unfolded the paper with shaking hands. On it was a complicated ash-like symbol. The temple's ash. Just in case, I'd better keep it. Ivna continued down the stairs, covering her nose and mouth. She called out, "Is anyone there?" The air was thick with the smell of blood. Ivna's breathing faltered. She looked up. Rusted chains and shackles hung from the walls. Ivna covered her mouth, her whole body going rigid. No way. Blood-stained shackles trailed across the stone floor as well. The sound of Ivna's footsteps echoed down the passage. Ahead stood a dark figure. Someone's there. I should run. But it was as if something had seized her ankle tightly. She couldn't move. A cold sensation curled around it, as though invisible chains were binding her. Her whole body stiffened. Footsteps sounded in the corridor. Ivna turned around in fright. John was standing there. John let out a soft sigh. How boring. He held a cigar between his fingers. Smoke curled around him. Ivna sucked in a cold breath. Her body went rigid. The corner of John's lips lifted in a faint smile. A blush rose to Ivna's cheeks, and her heart skipped a beat. "Commander." John's blue eyes lowered. "Miss Ivna, I truly didn't expect to see you here." "Ivna estamered y. Me neither." John walked toward her slowly. "Teacher, this place is dangerous. I'll take you out. You don't look very well either." Ivna abruptly knocked his hand aside. John's hand stopped in midair. She leaned against the stone wall, avoiding his touch. John withdrew his hand, his blue eyes flickering slightly. Ivna forced out a smile. "I was just wandering near the dressing rooms. I didn't want dust to dirty you." Ivna lowered her head. "Sorry, that was even ruder of me." Ivna covered her face with both hands, screaming inwardly. "Say something." John spoke softly. "Teacher." He smiled faintly, light reflected in his blue eyes. John said calmly, "This used to be a place where slaves were bought and sold. It's dangerous." Ivna clasped her hands together. "I know. I just wanted to confirm whether this filthy place had been completely destroyed." John answered firmly, "Yes, I clean it up myself." Ivna's eyes lit up. No wonder Merlin is so enthusiastic about cleaning the classroom. So it's because of family teaching. But what I cleaned up was people, not dust. Ivna smiled brightly. "You cleaned up those evil slave traders. So that's why this place turned into ruins." John closed his eyes, the corners of his lips lifting into a gentle but unsettling smile. "Don't say that while smiling. That's terrifying." John opened his eyes. "I only stopped by while choosing a gift for Merlin. I want to know what he likes best." There you go, changing the subject again. John extended his hand. A delicate box rested in his palm. "Would you like to look at this?" "A music box, right?" The lid sprang open. Light spilled from it brilliantly. Ivna praised it. "It's beautiful. Merlin will definitely love it." John smiled. "Yes, I hope so too." A soldier hurried over. "Commander, we found the route used by the escaped slave traders." John's gaze sharpened. "Good. Where?" The soldier lowered his voice. "It seems it may be connected to the saint." Ivna rose on tiptoe and strained to listen. "What are they saying?" "I can't hear." John ordered the soldier, "Leave it for now. Carry out the search." The soldier saluted and turned away. "Yes, sir." "Damn it, I didn't catch a single word." John turned to Ivna. "Teacher, let's move somewhere else." Ivna quickly apologized. "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I must have talked too much in the knight's place of work." Ivna gave an awkward smile. "I've disturbed you too much. I'll be leaving now." John called after her. "Teacher." He lowered his eyes. "If you don't mind, would you?" Ivna looked up. "What?" John's eyes flickered, a trace of complicated emotion passing through his blue pupils. "Never mind." John said softly, "Please get home safely." Ivna smiled and waved. "All right, then I'll see you at the school festival." John stood alone at the dark stairwell entrance, watching Ivna's figure disappear into the light. He bent down and picked up a slip of paper from the ground, the very one Ivna had dropped. John unfolded it and looked at the ash on it. "Huh. You really do make me guess, Saint." Time passed. At last, that day arrived. Sunlight filled the academy, and the spired buildings glittered beneath the blue sky. Ivna looked exhausted. It's finally here, the 7th straight day of overtime. Ivna took a deep breath. "Ivna, do your best again this year." She pushed open the classroom door. Merlin called out excitedly, "It's Teacher Ivna." "Teacher's here." Ivna stood at the podium, her hands clasped together. "All right, is everyone ready?" The children responded in unison. "Yes." Flames burned in the parents' eyes with excitement. Ivna announced with a smile, "Then let us begin the auditions." Raising one finger and smiling brightly, she said, "For this year's school festival play." A grand estate surrounded by green trees stood under the blue sky and white clouds. Philip held up a handkerchief. The thing I treasure most is my mother's handkerchief. She's used it to wipe my face since I was a baby. Pressing the handkerchief to his chest, Philip said, I always carry it with me and think of my mother. The noble women below all sighed in admiration. Oh, Philip, my proud child. I've applauded. Very well done, Philip. All right, next student. Philip bowed deeply and stepped aside as thunderous applause burst from the audience. Another boy stepped forward and pushed up his glasses. I brought an apple one grew myself. The boy held up a bright red apple. When the end of the world comes, I will plant this apple tree. Ivna's expression shifted slightly. That sounds strangely familiar. Ivna clasped her hands together, smiling warmly. Wow, wonderful. What an excellent presentation. Ivna looked at the children with relief. Thankfully, the children were innocent and kind. They didn't envy or put each other down. They simply enjoyed themselves. The children sat together in a circle. One boy held up a blue toy car. I want to touch that too. Another boy protected his toy. No, my grandfather made this for me. Ivna watched them. 5-year-olds are easily distracted, but they were listening seriously to their friends' presentations. She felt proud of them. Ivna announced, next is Bantad. Bantad stepped forward, fists clenched, his stride firm. Ivna watched the boy. Even His Highness hopes Bantad will become the lead. So what did he bring? Bantad stopped beside Ivna. He pulled something from inside his clothes. Golden light glinted. Ivna's pupils widened. Is that chocolate? Bantad held up a piece of chocolate. One corner was missing, and half of it had already been eaten. Bantad loudly declared, chocolate. Bantad, was this really your best effort? The children swarmed forward. Martian shouted, I want some too. The other children echoed him. Me too. Me too. Ivna smiled helplessly. It's just like handing out hamburgers during a class representative election. The way the world works never changes. Ivna clapped her hands. All right, everyone back to your seats. Next is Martian. Is your presentation ready? Martian stepped forward, wiping chocolate from the corner of his mouth. What I love most is, Martian spread his arms wide. Our beloved imperial citizen, a perfect prince. That's the answer, while still having chocolate stuck to his lips. Ivna thought to herself. Merlin raised his hand. Teacher, Merlin wants to present too. Ivna smiled and nodded. All right, it's your turn. Merlin, I remember now. The Knight Commander bought a music box. Ivna thought, it was beautiful. He'll probably bring that out. But Merlin turned his back to the crowd. What I love most is, da-da-da-da. Merlin suddenly spun around, spread his arms wide, and beamed. Our beautiful teacher. Merlin ran forward and wrapped his arms around Ivna's waist. Ivna stiffened. Merlin. Merlin loudly declared, I love teacher the most. Another child put both hands on his hips. Merlin, that's not fair. I love teacher the most too. The other children all rushed forward and hugged Ivna as well. I want to change my presentation to teacher Ivna too. Ivna's cheeks turned red. Children, I'm very happy, but Ivna felt her skirt being tugged. If this keeps up, my skirt is going to come off. After a burst of commotion, the children conducted a secret vote to decide the lead. The parents sat restlessly, whispering to one another. Please, let it be my child. Standing behind the podium, Ivna smiled and announced, Everyone, the vote is over. The lead in this year's play is... Ivna raised her voice. Congratulations, Bantad. Bantad's eyes instantly lit up. He clutched that piece of chocolate tightly, as if he were holding the whole world. Ivna applauded. Let's all congratulate Bantad. The children burst into cheers. Philip wiped tears with his sleeve. But I should be the lead. My presentation was the best. Ivna crouched down and gently rubbed Philip's back. Philip, in a play, it's not only the lead who shines. Ivna said softly, everyone can shine. Everyone can be wonderful. But Philip cried even harder. But, Philip sniffled. Just look at that idiot Bantad. Then you'll know that even a villain can have the same presence as the lead. Ivna closed her eyes. I've been trying very hard to suppress that exact same thought myself. With tears in his eyes, Philip looked at Bantad. Bantad spoke. Then you be the lead. I don't want to be. It's scary. So you can do it. Ivna looked at Bantad in surprise. Bantad, you really don't want to be the lead? Bantad nodded. No child had ever given up the lead role before. Ivna thought to herself. She turned to Philip. Philip, you should thank Bantad. Philip's face turned red, and he stammered. Thank you. Pa Bantad corrected him. It's Bantad. Ivna clasped her hands together and smiled brightly. Thanks to kind Bantad stepping aside, Philip became the lead. Ivna clenched her hands. All right, now let's announce the other roles. Bantad seemed destined to walk the path of a villain. Yet what he did today was so gentle. Warmth filled Ivna's heart. Smiling, Ivna thought, I need to work hard too. I can't fall behind. Ivna drew a line on the floor and imagined it as a narrow log bridge. Imagine deep water rushing below the bridge. Ivna stood at one end of the white line, watching two children approach from opposite sides. It was a simple warm-up game used to judge their personalities and acting ability. Merlin shouted angrily, "Move aside." Merlin goes first. Merlin grabbed Martian by the hair. Martian refused to back down. "You move. You're the slowpoke." Merlin retorted, "Merlin is not a slowpoke." Martian shot back, "If you're not a slowpoke, then you're the king of idiots." Ivna grabbed one child in each hand and pulled them apart. "You two stop fighting." With a packed training schedule and a bunch of unpredictable 5-year-olds, Ivna forced a bitter smile. "Who is it this time?" Ivna heard a soft laugh and turned around. Aristi was covering her mouth with one hand, her eyes glittering. "Aristi, stop, Bantad. We meet again." "Bantad, Aristi is here to avenge the loss of the lead role." Bantad looked confused. "I just want to go through." Ivna watched them from afar. "They won't start fighting, will they?" Aristi suddenly turned and said, "Look here." Aristi spread his arms. "This is Bantad's favorite chocolate." Aristi's eyes sparkled, but Bantad couldn't see it. Bantad looked in confusion at Aristi's empty hands. "But there's nothing there." "Aristi chuted, impossible." "This is chocolate only good children can see." He demanded, "Could it be that Bantad is a bad child?" Bantad's lips trembled. His eyes reddened as he lowered his head in grievance. Aristi stretched out his hand. "Take this and then get out of my way." Bantad sniffled with his head down. Ivna watched the scene. "All right, Bantad is a good child. He's in training, Bantad." Aristi grabbed Bantad's hand. "Great, then please move aside." Bantad hesitated. Aristi pivoted on his toes and tripped Bantad. Bantad fell hard onto the floor, crossing over the white line. Aristi walked straight past him. Lying face down on the ground, Bantad cried, "Teacher, I fell into the water." Ivna immediately rushed over. "Oh no, teacher will save you right away." A man stood outside the door, quietly watching the scene. The man's voice was low. "Good heavens! At this rate, how can we not worry for the future of the Empire?" Ivna hurriedly defended herself. "Please don't say that. It's perfectly normal for children this age to fall down." Supporting Bantad, Ivna said, "This is a normal part of growing up." "Your Majesty." Ivna's words stopped short. She suddenly looked up. Wait, a figure loomed over her. Short red hair, a splendid royal uniform. It was Beghid. Looking up at him, Ivna said, "Your Majesty, why are you here?" To avoid causing commotion, Ivna pulled Beghid outside. Then she abruptly stopped. "Your Majesty, why have you come to the kindergarten?" Beghid looked down at her. "Teacher, you have quite good arm strength." Beghid looked impressed. "You have talent. Have you considered joining the Emperor's Imperial Knights?" Ivna quickly bowed. "I apologize for my rudeness, Your Majesty. But a guardian showing up without warning will frighten the children, and all the more so when it's Your Majesty." "Is there something wrong with Martian?" "No." Beghid's tone was flat. "Didn't I say? I'm worried about the future of the Empire." A hint of amusement flashed through his eyes. Beghid looked down at Ivna. "I think I need to calm down here before I can work. Could you bring me some tea?" Ivna stared at him. "Why would you come to a kindergarten? To think about the future of the Empire?" Ivna recalled a previous conversation. In the counseling room, he had once asked her, "What are you planning to do there? Are you worried about the future of the Empire or the comfort of its people?" It wouldn't hurt to care a little about the welfare of those little mice. Ivna let out a soft sigh. Calling them little mice in a kindergarten is a bit harsh. Ivna looked up. "If you come, I will serve you tea, as long as you have the principal's permission." She lowered her head slightly. "Sorry, but you would need the principal's approval." Beghid raised a finger. "I already got permission." He agreed very readily. Ivna sighed softly. "Children, after practice ends, let's go to the counseling room." The counseling room door stood open. Sunlight poured in. On the table sat a 3-tier dessert stand, delicate teaware, and a dazzling spread of sweets. Ivna's eyes widened. This is the dessert set from Starry Sky Salon, the one that's nearly impossible to buy even after waiting in line. Beghid closed his eyes. "I don't particularly like sweets. They're all for you." Ivna bowed deeply. "Guardian, please come often in the future." Beghid looked at her. "Sit down and hear me out." Ivna licked her lips and picked up a knife and fork, ready to start eating. Beghid leaned forward. By the way, teacher, is this really all right? He moved closer to Ivna. If people find out we're meeting privately in a kindergarten, does that not matter? The corner of Beghid's mouth curved up. Of course, if some scandal arises, I'd be happy to cooperate. Ivna looked at him in silence. She bit on her fork. The principal gave permission, and the other teachers have all gone home. Beghid leaned back. That's a pity. Beghid leaned in again. By the way, have you considered replacing this uncomfortable chair? Ivna looked at him. There's a spare one in the teacher's room. Shall I bring it? Beghid spoke casually. Forget it. I came today to familiarize myself with a place I'll be visiting often. Ivna looked utterly confused. A place you'll be visiting often? Beghid looked down at her. Do you know how many worries an emperor has? Coming once or twice won't solve them. He leaned closer. So please take care of me from now on. Beghid said softly, Teacher. Ivna looked at the tea set on the table. It wouldn't be good to ask the principal to throw him out now, would it? Teacher, you really know how to joke. The cry of a crow cut through the sky, sharp and harsh. Teacher Felina collapsed, startling Ivna. A female teacher rushed over. Teacher Ivna, the invitations for the school festival are full of typos. Ivna was instantly surrounded. The uniform workshop says they can't deliver on time. What do we do? The order of the program cards is wrong, too. Ivna felt utterly drained in body and mind. She wanted to just collapse here, in some completely legal, labor protection-approved way. But Ivna knew that if she gave up on the school festival now, it would truly be over. She took a deep breath. Send Teacher Felina to the hospital. Contact the print shop and complain about the typos. Demand an immediate reprint. Ivna transformed into a 1,000-armed goddess, handling every issue at once. As for the costumes, we'll find another workshop. I've already organized a list of backups. Ivna took the documents. Give me the event plan, too. I'll review it again and revise the schedule. The other teachers looked at her with admiration. Teacher Ivna is amazing, as expected of one of the founding members of Rondell and the living symbol of the kindergarten. Ivna's eyes were firm. That's right. Let's not surrender to overwork. Forward toward the school festival. Ivna raised an arm and shouted, Everyone, let's work hard for the school festival. Time passed amid a string of misfortunes. The kindergarten building basked in the sunlight. School festival banners fluttered in the wind. A splendid carriage came into view. Another teacher ran over to report, Teacher Ivna, the loudspeaker has been set up. Another teacher asked, Teacher, are you ready too? Ivna took a deep breath and stepped toward the podium. Yes. Ivna stood at the podium, holding a glowing crystal orb in both hands. Her voice was amplified through the crystal sphere. Thank you all for waiting patiently. The lights will soon go out, and the hall will grow dark. Please watch your step. Ivna continued broadcasting. Please move in an orderly manner. A parent pleaded with the painter, Painter, when my child appears, please make them look especially good. The painter replied confidently, Don't worry. I've painted this kindergarten school festival 4 times already. Young Master Sherry is the first one, right? 2 noble women chatted. Yes, he's even been practicing dancing at home. Children's stamina really has improved a lot. One mother looked full of expectation. Our child, goodness. A spotlight shone down onto the center of the stage. Ivna stood there alone. This was Rondell Kindergarten's biggest event of the first half of the year, and also the one that exhausted the staff the most. This stage had been built from the blood, sweat, and tears of everyone involved. Holding the crystal orb, Ivna said, And now let us begin. Ivna smiled. The school festival of Rondell Kindergarten. The great doors crashed open. A figure clad in heavy armor rudely interrupted the opening of the celebration. A fully armed knight strode in, metal clashing loudly. Ivna's smile froze. Why are knights from the Grand Temple here? The knights advanced in formation and surrounded Ivna in the center. Wait, this is a kindergarten. Why are there armed soldiers here? The lead knight's voice was cold. Ivna, Winster. The cold tip of a spear was aimed at Ivna. It gleamed with a frigid light. The knight declared, We have received critical intelligence. You're a black mage. Please come with us. Ivna's pupils shrank. What? What do you mean by this? Whispers spread through the crowd. Those are the saints' personal knights. What's going on? A black mage? Ivna protested. I don't even know what black magic is. What are you doing? Her voice trembled. An accusation? That's absurd. The saint personally identified you. Ivna's face instantly turned pale. The crystal orb slipped from her hand. Knight Lillian's voice sounded out. My lady, please cooperate with detention and investigation. Two knights seized Ivna and took her away. A purple orb of magical power rolled across the floor. Ivna's face flushed red. I'm not some black mage. A guard in heavy armor gripped Ivna's arm. Another guard coldly ordered, "You can tell that to the saint. Move." The children whispered among themselves. What did he say? What happened to teacher Ivna? Ivna lowered her eyes, face pale. Ivna looked up at the guard. If the children see me dragged away like this, they'll be frightened. I'll walk on my own. Ivna was held between two guards. The guard's voice was emotionless. That's none of our concern, miss. Who knows whether you try to run? Ivna lowered her head weakly and let out a sigh. Merlin poked his head out from backstage and watched Ivna being escorted away by the guards. WH what? Merlin panicked and shook Martian. Hey, Martian, you're sick. Go get teacher. Merlin clutched him tightly. They're people from the temple. You have to go. Merlin stamped his feet in anxiety. My dad went very far away to get treatment, and my brother said he's busy too. Bantad stood in the doorway, unease in his eyes. Bantad looked up. Caden was standing there with a luxurious sapphire brooch pinned to his collar. Bantad looked up and asked, "Brother, where's teacher?" Caden's lips tightened, and he said nothing. Ivna sat alone in a cold cell. A dim ray of light shone in through the barred window. Rubbing her temples, Ivna muttered, "My head hurts." The torch on the wall crackled. It lit up the prison chamber. A guard opened the cell door, and Lillian walked in. She waved a hand before her nose. "Can't this place at least be cleaned? It's so irritating." The guard immediately bowed. "Saint, I'll take care of it at once." Lillian raised a hand to stop him, a slight smile on her lips. "Oh, my sister." Lillian walked toward Ivna. "It seems your journey has been difficult." Ivna looked up at Lillian. "Lillian," Ivna met her eyes directly. "Let's stop beating around the bush. You say I'm a black mage. Even if that were true, how dare you treat a noble woman like this?" Ivna paused. "You don't seem afraid at all, Lillian." Lillian gently touched her cheek. "I came because I was genuinely worried about you, sister." "And what do you mean by noble woman?" Lillian's gaze turned icy. "Someone like you still being called Winster is unbelievable. A few days ago, I discovered another talent, and father was very pleased." Lillian looked down at Ivna. "You still don't have any talent at all, do you? How pitiful." Ivna kept her hands behind her back. "Didn't I just defeat a monster?" Lillian looked down at her. "But there's no point bringing that up now. What matters most now is..." Ivna turned her face to the side and forced a smile. Thinking about it carefully, "Lillian, is there any chance you've mistaken something about me being a black mage?" A stiff smile hung on Ivna's face. "You've always been quick to misunderstand people, haven't you? Just like when you played the role of the real daughter of our family." Lillian turned around. "What did you say?" Her expression froze instantly. "What did you just say?" The smile vanished from Ivna's face. "Let me ask you, does your name want to be entered into my mother's family registry?" Ivna pressed on. "You wanted that so badly. Haven't you gotten it yet?" Power erupted from Lillian's body. She screamed, "That's impossible." Ivna watched Lillian lose control with icy eyes. Lillian clenched her fists. "No, that's not right." The torches burned against the stone wall. Lillian's voice echoed. "Thank you, sister." Lillian smiled. "You're just as arrogant as ever. Now I can interrogate you about why you're a black mage without the slightest guilt." A faint smile appeared on Ivna's face. "What are you smiling at?" "Fearless," Ivna replied. "Investigate all you want. Let's see whether you can find even a speck of dust on me." Lillian pulled out a piece of paper. "This paper, do you remember it?" Ivna's pupils contracted. "What?" Ivna's memory was torn open. Ivna appeared in that memory, trembling all over with a paper in her hand. Ivna demanded, "Where did you get this?" Lillian smiled. "I put there. That way, the moment a black mage touched it, I would know." Ivna shot back. "It was already like this before I touched it." Lillian gave a soft snort. "I did that. Sister, the moment you touched it, it reacted." Ivna's cheeks puffed up in anger. "What kind of nonsense are you talking about?" Lillian said coldly. This was found among her belongings. She took the red-covered book. "It's written in a strange language. It can't be deciphered." Lillian flipped through the pages. On the last page, there was even an ancient black magic symbol. Ivna's eyes widened. She had only found it by chance. How could something from a side story from the past be here? An open book floated in the darkness. On the page was a complicated black heart-shaped symbol, and beneath it was a line of text, an ancient black magic symbol. Ivna clenched her teeth. I tried drawing it myself. It was clumsy, but still. Damn that author. Lillian smiled brightly. It seems my arrogant sister has nothing left to say in the face of evidence. Guards, knights. Ingwerthy, Ivna screamed. No, it's because I'm too speechless about the author. Lillian turned to face the guards. Interrogate that black mage until she confesses. The guards closed in on Ivna. Lillian added, be very thorough. Do everything you can. The guards answered in unison, yes, Saintess. Ivna looked at Lillian, fury blazing in her eyes. Lillian, a guard held up a thorny vine. You really do have these knights wrapped around your finger. The guard approached. Confess obediently. Ivna stared at the vine. Is that an interrogation tool? If this goes badly, I really could die. A guard seized Ivna by the arm. Should I confess? Enduring torture without speaking is something only movie protagonists do. Ivna lowered her gaze. The torches burned quietly against the stone walls. In her memory, the voices of two parents echoed. Teacher Ivna, thanks to you, our academy acceptance rate has gone up. Our kindergarten even received the highest rating. Sunlight poured over a splendid building. Children's voices rang out. Teacher Bantad said, I like teacher the most. Merlin shouted too, me too. I like teacher too. Ivna sat with her head bowed, her hands tied to the chair's armrests. A guard stood before her and ordered confess. Say it with your own mouth, Ivna. Ivna raised her head, a trace of scorn in her eyes. Why should I say anything? She gave a provoking smile. Do as you like. Useless lot. Bastard knights. Blood dripped down. Lillian looked down at Ivna. Sister, do you feel more like confessing now? Ivna lifted her head. Her lips were cracked and bloody. Lillian, hatred filled Ivna's eyes. Go to hell. Lillian closed her eyes and gave a sweet smile. It seems it still isn't enough. Lillian lightly touched the guard's helmet. Sir Helix, continue, please. The guard bowed. Yes, Saintess. Ivna gripped the armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. A dull thud sounded, and her body jolted violently. Ivna let out a muffled cry. Her consciousness gradually blurred. Then Caden raised his pistol, the barrel glinting coldly. The corner of his mouth lifted. His gaze was sharp. Ivna's awareness slowly cleared. Duke Hildebrand. Smoke rose. A shattered lock fell to the ground. A trembling voice cried, My lady. Blood splattered across the stone floor. Dust billowed everywhere. A figure passed through the haze. Caden stood in the doorway, his gun barrel still smoking. Ivna was baffled. What is going on? The gunshot woke me up. Lillian hurried over, her footsteps echoing down the corridor. She stopped in front of Caden, trembling with fear. I'm so frightened. I can't stop shaking. Lillian's fingers brushed the pendant at her chest. Caden said nothing. Lillian looked straight at him. You burst in so suddenly, yet you offer no explanation. Caden's profile was stern, a faint curve at his lips. Saintess, you should address me as Duke Hildebrand. Lillian stiffened. What? Lillian took a step back. I was only carrying out the Saintess's duty. Caden advanced slowly. Saintess, in the course of taking Ivna Belchester into custody, we discovered traces of illegal magitech. Lillian's eyes widened in alarm. What are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Caden said, the restraints you used to bind Ivna Belchester have been confirmed to be counterfeit illegal magitech. Lillian turned to the knight behind her. He trembled all over. Saintess, when I bought those restraints, I was told they were genuine. Caden looked down at Lillian. Therefore, you must come with us for questioning. His tone was icy. Saintess Lillian. Lillian lifted her chin, her voice rising with a tremor. This is the temple. If you take me away, the goddess will be enraged, Duke. You're mistaken. Caden slowly raised his gun and pointed it directly at Lillian's forehead. Is that so? He pulled the trigger. A gunshot rang out. The bullet grazed Lillian's cheek and struck the wall behind her. Lillian collapsed to the floor. Caden lowered the gun and turned toward the woman sitting on the ground. Ivna said weakly, Duke Hildebrand, why are you here? Weren't you supposed to be watching Bantad's performance? Caden looked at her. I've never believed in gods. A button from his opened clothing fell to the floor. It made a crisp sound. Caden lifted Ivna into his arms. Are you all right? Ivna leaned against his chest. I feel like I'm dying. Caden's eyes turned cold. Do you want me to kill that knight? Ivna buried her face in his chest. Please don't joke about that. John's voice rang out. Saintess Lillian. Lillian turned and saw Sir John de Sat. John's expression was severe. Because you acted on suspicion alone, the high priest is very angry. John turned to leave. Take care of yourself until we meet again. Lillian's eyes flickered. John's voice sounded again. If you fall ill and hide away, it will be troublesome. Then he walked off. John looked over and said, Teacher, I've no war of faint, embarrassed expression. Guardian, do I look a bit of a mess? She continued, but I'm really not a black mage. I'm just a pitiful person who got tortured. John's gaze sharpened at the word tortured. He clenched his fist. Sir Helix, we'll hear your story later. John held out a hand. Caden turned away while carrying Ivna. Teacher's condition comes first. John asked, Do you think I'm foolish enough to leave someone who's been tortured here? Ivna's cheeks flushed. I think I'm fine. John answered firmly, You are not. Teacher, what you need right now is healing magic. He added, There is a doctor waiting outside the temple, Caden. Caden looked suspicious. A doctor of unknown origin? Caden explained, You can't use holy healing on someone who is whipped by holy power. Ivna muttered softly, Wouldn't some disinfectant be enough? John's tone allowed no argument. In the time we've spent arguing, I could already have healed her. Stop wasting time. Caden finally relented. Fine. Caden loosened his hold and gently set Ivna down. John crouched down. A soft golden light shimmered from his palm and spread over Ivna's body. Caden turned his head and glanced at the knight cowering in the corner. The knight trembled in fear. Caden muttered, Disgusting. I don't know anything. The knight waved the thorned whip, a sick smile on his face. His voice shook. I just picked this up off the floor. Damn, it's obviously an unregistered weapon. A blue-haired soldier stared at the scene before him. What is this? That light is even stronger than holy power. Brilliant golden light shone from John's palm, instantly filling the whole space. When the golden light faded, every wound on Ivna's body had disappeared. Have I finally died? Is this heaven? Ivna slowly opened her eyes. John was holding her. Teacher, you mustn't pass out. Why is there an idol group here? Their luck is terrible, getting caught by the captain. Caden pressed a purple-haired soldier's head down. Quiet. There's a patient here. Guardian, who are those people? John explained, They're soldiers from the Magitech Administration Bureau, under Duke Hildebrand. Just a bunch of slackers. A blue-haired soldier leaned toward the purple-haired one. The purple-haired soldier opened his mouth in terror. Help. Caden asked the blue-haired soldier, Jaden. What is it? Jaden looked at the purple-haired soldier. Hey, this guy's face looks really familiar. Where have I seen him? A bar? A restaurant? No. The purple-haired soldier struggled to move away. A glimmer flashed through Jaden's eyes. Jaden pointed at the purple-haired soldier. Captain, don't you remember him? Caden said, explain. Jaden excitedly said, It's that guy, you know. Jaden hurriedly explained, He's your friend. Caden bent down, examining the purple-haired soldier's face. I remember now. The purple-haired soldier's pupils suddenly shrank. Tears burst from his eyes. He's a deserter. He used to be a deserter. The courtyard erupted in commotion. Crows cried out as they crossed the night sky. John, holding Ivna, looked puzzled by the word. A deserter? A black-haired soldier spoke up. Oh, I remember now. The one who got drunk, beat up his comrades, and ran away. Jaden nodded. That's right. His name is George. No, Jones. Crick Jones. Jaden stared at Jones. It's him. Headquarters nearly went mad, trying to catch this bastard. We didn't sleep for 4 whole days, while he was living comfortably. Jones trembled all over as tears rolled down his face. We crossed mountains and rivers, and you were hiding in the temple. What a sly rat. Caden said, Saintus, you brought back filthy trash. Jones roared, Saintus, I gave you everything I had. Lillian's expression remained cold. Do with him as you please. His affairs have nothing to do with me. Jones screamed in terror. Saintus, spare me. Jaden knocked Jones unconscious with one blow. Stop wasting your breath. Get some sleep first. You have a lot to explain to us. Ivna turned to John. Guardian, that person was. John continued, gently healing her. Sorry, it's too noisy. He lowered his head to look at Ivna in his arms. The emergency treatment is finished. Teacher, get some rest. We'll take care of the rest quickly. Ivna's cheeks reddened. She replied softly, thank you. Then she closed her eyes in exhaustion. Once the Guardian finished dealing with everything, Caden walked over. John looked up, his face grave, when a knight's voice called out, Captain, the carriage is ready. Caden said, now that the treatment is over, let's go. Ivna slowly opened her eyes. Where is this? John's voice came. I'll treat the deeper wounds. He gently helped Ivna sit up and laid her back against the pillow. Ivna looked up at him. John murmured, it might hurt a little. Let me apologize first. Ivna called softly, SCH school. John sat by the bed and soothed her gently. It's all right. You don't have to worry about anything here. John's fingers brushed over Ivna's forehead. I'll do my best so it won't hurt. Ivna nervously grabbed his sleeve. So it won't hurt? John lowered his eyes. If it does hurt, you don't need to endure it. You can hit me, scold me, even bite me if you must. How could I do that to you? Guardian. Golden light flared from John's palm as he pressed it to Ivna's wound. Her body arched back. She let out a scream. It hurts. Ivna squeezed her eyes shut. Tears poured out, and her body curled from the sharp pain. She clutched John's wrist. Teacher. John soothed her softly. It's all right. You're all right. John held Ivna's hand, trying to calm her. Golden light surged. It'll be over soon. Almost done. School. I want to see. Yes, teacher. John smiled. Once you're better, you'll be able to see it. It's really over now. The golden light dispersed. John's hand gently held Ivna's. Ivna let out a faint sound as golden light flowed from John's palm into her wound. She gripped his arm tightly. Ivna gasped for breath as sweat rolled down. At last she collapsed onto the bed, breathing hard. Her eyes were unfocused. John comforted her. Teacher, it doesn't hurt anymore, does it? Ivna slowly came to. This is Guardian. Ivna hurriedly explained, I really don't understand black magic. I only kept that book because I found it by chance and got curious. John gazed at Ivna gently. The investigation is over. Teacher, you are completely innocent. Ivna's eyes turned wet. Then, with a trembling voice, she asked, Then, I won't be whipped again, right? John fell silent, a complicated emotion passing through his eyes. John said firmly, that will never happen again. Ivna grew angry. That bastard. I remember his face. I'll crush him. John chuckled softly. Teacher, you're very brave. Do you need my help? Ivna refused. No, it's all right. You shouldn't have to look at something that filthy, Guardian. She looked around. Oh, but where exactly are we? John answered, in my room at the temple. Ivna felt the bed beneath her, and where I'm lying right now. John smiled. My bed. Ivna sat bolt upright. What? Panic-stricken, she stammered, I'm sorry. In your room, Guardian, I'll leave right away. I'll go home at once. As she struggled to get out of bed, she accidentally fell to the floor. John reached out and stopped her. No. His voice was gentle. How could I let a patient leave? You must be hungry. I'll bring you something. Ivna's cheeks reddened. Igriegagis. My body still hurts. But Ivna's gaze fell on John's arm. Guardian, your arm is hurt. John glanced down. Oh. Sometimes stray cats sneak into the temple. I take in injured cats. I was probably scratched. Ivna looked sympathetic. That poor cat must have been in so much pain to scratch someone. I'm a little worried about Merlin. He likes animals so much. John patted Ivna's shoulder. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. Ivna said anxiously, but Merlin. John cut her off. Teacher, you should rest. I'll look after that cat. He urged her gently. Please rest. Then he turned and left, closing the door behind him. John stepped out of the room. A knight in blue was already waiting. He let out a long breath. The knight reported, We've confirmed that Saintess Lillian fabricated the evidence. And what about Jones Hurlick? John's eyes lowered. Hurlick? That man. The knight suggested, Shall I bring him here? Or interrogate him directly? He's a deserter anyway. John interrupted. Release him. The knight stared in shock. What? Re-release him? John nodded. Let him go. John lowered his gaze. Because she said she didn't want me to see filthy things. Merlin had his eyes closed, cheeks flushed, rubbing against the pillow. Ivna tiredly opened her eyes. Dark circles hung beneath them. She sighed soundlessly. Ivna lay in bed with Merlin snuggled beside her. For a full 7 days, Ivna stayed in the Grand Temple on extended sick leave. A voice rang out, Oh dear. Miss Merlin came to see teacher again. I clearly told him that if he's sick, he should rest properly. John apologized. Teacher, I'm sorry. He gently stroked Merlin's head and held him carefully in his arms. Merlin remained nestled there, accepting John's attentive care the whole time. Ivna said, Guardian, what did I tell you this morning? John replied, the stew was really delicious, right? Ivna hurriedly waved her hands. No, not that, although it really was delicious. Helplessly, she said, this is already the 100th time I've said it. I told you this wasn't your fault, so stop apologizing. If you know that, why do you keep apologizing? Ivna looked troubled, her lips parting slightly. If this keeps up, I might actually get angry from being too embarrassed. John murmured, HM. His eyes were gentle. Then please get angry. I beg you. Ivna stared in shock. Huh? What? So that's your preference? John said yes. Teacher, you don't have to trouble yourself reading everything personally, but I thought you might be curious about how the royal family handled it. He handed a document to Ivna. Ivna said, Thank you for sharing something this important with me. John smiled and shook his head. It's not important at all. John turned and lightly waved a hand. I'm only worried that reading such dull documents will worsen your condition. So the relationship really isn't that good. A maid entered the room. My lord, teacher's departure preparations are complete. I told you to take your time, but your diligence is the problem. The maid continued. Then while teacher changed his clothes, I'll step out first. Ivna smiled. New clothes? The ones I came in would have been fine. John said, I can't let you go out wearing something so revealing. Then I'll go call for the carriage. Ivna hurriedly stopped him. Guardiano, Lord Jizat. Ivna closed her eyes, a happy smile on her face. Thank you very much for taking care of me. John gazed at her. His face looked gentle beneath the wreath. Congratulations on your discharge, teacher. Outside the Grand Temple, the sun shone brightly. Viscount Belchester looked deeply worried. Good heavens, did the Grand Temple not feed its patients? Ivna lowered her head. I actually gained weight. Viscount Belchester held Ivna's face in his hands. Look how thin you've gotten. Let's go eat first. I'll contact the kindergarten and ask for a few more days' leave for you. Ivna hastily waved her hands, cheeks pink. And no need. I've rested enough. I really can ask for more leave. That's what I say, but the bed there was unbelievably comfortable. A body pillow, a super soft blanket. And since the diagnosis said I needed 2 weeks, taking time to recover would have been understandable. Pull yourself together, Ivna. Don't forget your duty as an educator. The door was suddenly pushed open. A man stuck his head in. Oh, you look awful. Ivna narrowed her eyes. Can't you knock before coming in? Can't you see there's a patient here? The man said, You have another visitor. The headmistress of Rondell Kindergarten. Your boss, right? Ivna's eyes flew wide open, her pupils shrinking. Headmistress? Ivna cried out, Brother, help me. Then she pleaded, What did you do to make him say something he never says? Stop talking nonsense. Quick, get some clothes out of the wardrobe for me. The headmistress set a gift box tied with a red ribbon on the table. I prepared comfortable home clothes and some tea that's good for recovery. Don't worry about the kindergarten. Rest a few more days. Ivna sat up in bed. And no, headmistress, you really don't have to go this far. The headmistress insisted, Don't refuse. This is from the kindergarten staff and the Parents Association. She took Ivna's hand. You've worked hard. It must have been very hard, right? Headmistress. The headmistress said, Oh, right. I heard in the end it was the Grand Temple's mistake. Ivna stiffened. A mistake? The headmistress nodded firmly. Yes, we received an official notice from the Grand Temple. How could they threaten our teacher in such a careless way? Ivna hurriedly waved her hands. And no, it's all right. Everyone makes mistakes. That's the secret to surviving in society. Pretend to be weak and kind. The headmistress looked at her. Teacher, you're always so kind. So after discussing it in the staff meeting, Rondell Kindergarten has decided to suspend volunteer teaching at the Grand Temple. Ivna looked stunned. What? Suspend it? The headmistress clasped her hands together, smiling brightly. Only temporarily. When she smiles like that, she's at her scariest. Ivna asked urgently, but at least the textbooks should still be delivered, right? A lot of the volunteers still can't read. The headmistress thought for a moment. All right, I think that would be acceptable, but only that. A voice came from outside the door. Ivna, 2 more visitors have arrived. Ivna turned her head. Visitors? A woman's voice rang out. Teacher Ivna, the moment I heard you were back, I rushed over. The woman's face was full of concern. Are you feeling any better? I was so worried I didn't sleep all night. Another woman handed over a pink gift box. Please take this tofu. I heard that on the Eastern continent. People eat this when they're regretting something. Ivna accepted the gift. Goodness, thank you. I thought I was the only one who knew that custom. The woman fumed. Honestly, I can't believe they took teacher Ivna away. The Winster family has been placed under house arrest by the Noble Council for 3 months. Before they knew it, it had turned into a tea party. Another woman responded, Oh, really? Then they're finished. Who would invite them to gatherings now? The first woman continued. After all, it was His Majesty's direct order. Teacher Ivna, you've truly been wronged. Luckily, there are formidable parents like me standing on your side. Ivna laughed awkwardly. Huh. The woman leaned forward. So, teacher, our Parents Association has also decided to suspend donations to the Grand Temple, at least for the time being. The kindergarten building shone in the sunlight. Ivna remembered those 3 men, and their figures appeared in her mind. Looking at their faces, I bet the 3 of them were still brooding over the last school festival. At last, this year's school festival began again. The children ran excitedly. Their footsteps thudded. Drums pounded. Before the main performance began, the children would give a cheer performance. Merlin and Martian performed as the children lined up. They blew their horns. The children in the audience watched with shining eyes, their faces cupped in their hands. Full of expectation, Ivna held a glowing crystal ball, a gentle smile on her face. She raised it high, and now, the Rondell School Festival officially begins. Under the clear sky, inside the elegant school building, screams pierced the air. A group of noble ladies huddled together, cheeks flushed and eyes shining with fanatic delight. Too cute, unbelievably cute. Merlin and the children stretched out their arms in perfectly synchronized poses, like a tiny dance troupe. Ivna peeked from backstage. Thank goodness the children didn't forget the moves while I was gone. How can they match each other so perfectly? Bantad's movements were stiff, and he made small whimpering sounds. Merlin noticed immediately. Hey, not like that. Your arms go like this. Martian corrected the partner next to him as well. The purple-haired boy couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears. Martian panicked. Dee, don't cry. Stop it. Sweat beaded on Ivna's forehead, her expression pained. Is this going to keep happening? Begid wore splendid clothes and smiled. Your Highness, future crown princess, even your dancing is so dazzling. Begid praised. It's absolutely perfect. John rested his chin on his hand, smiling faintly. He'd even qualify to become emperor. Begid's smile stiffened. I'm still here, you know. That's a problem. John chuckled lightly. Death doesn't come in order or with prior notice. Watching them from afar, Ivna thought they're still exchanging cold barbs over there. Should I call this fortunate? Bantad wobbled. Oh no. Ivna clasped her hands before her chest, looking tense. Oh no. Bantad. Bantad crashed heavily to the ground, his cheek pressed against the cold floor. Ivna looked at the fallen boy. It's okay to fall, but lying prone on the floor, Bantad remembered what he'd been taught. Don't forget what teacher always says. What's important is never giving up. Bantad sprang to his feet and threw both arms up in a perfect ending pose. Merlin and the other children struck their poses too. The stage glittered with light. Merlin spread his arms, basking in the glory of the moment. The audience erupted into thunderous applause, with cheers rising one after another. Martian gave a wink. Bantad made a heart with both hands. Watching from backstage, Ivna thought, where did they learn those ending fairy poses? Ivna stood to one side of the stage and smiled at the audience. What did everyone think of the children's first performance? I thought it was very cute. The audience cheered in unison. Parents, please take your seats again. It's dangerous to stand. The audience answered in unison once more. Ivna held a glowing purple orb in both hands. Next, the choir will enter. Please enjoy the song the children practiced so hard. The audience responded with enthusiasm. Caden watched, an almost imperceptible smile at the corner of his mouth. Ivna noticed Caden's gaze. Why is he smiling? Is it because Bantad got back up? It's time for the choir. I hope everyone enjoys the next performance. Enjoys all of the performances. Sunlight filtered through the leaves onto the academy's stone walls. A voice rang out, go back and practice more. Rookie. Martian held a wooden sword, looking serious. The story went roughly like this. Under the stage spotlight, Martian struck down his opponent in one move. The protagonist, Philip, challenged the strongest warrior, Martian. But the weakest, Philip, defeated him completely. A boy in a tree costume looked utterly confused. What is this supposed to be? He ate the fruit of the divine tree, Bantad, and his abilities increased. Merlin pointed at him and shouted, Hey, idiot, that's not how you hold a sword. Do you have no brain? Moron. Under special training from the fairy Merlin. That Merlin who only knows how to insult people. The wooden sword fell with a clear clatter. Martian dropped to one knee and let out a pained groan. Martian looked up. You've gotten stronger. Philip looked down at him with his wooden sword in hand. I didn't become strong by my own power. It was because I had a powerful opponent like you, and because that mysterious tree gave me its fruit. Philip's eyes shone. Thanks to all of this. Suddenly Merlin rushed forward. Hey, Philip. Merlin grabbed Philip by the collar and roared angrily. Why didn't you mention the fairy lady? Don't you know how much teacher did for you? Philip cried out in terror. Teacher, teacher. Ivna lifted the struggling Merlin up with both hands. A noble fairy doesn't grab people by the collar, okay? Philip is an idiot. Idiot. Ivna closed her eyes, suppressing a laugh, while Merlin cried and fussed in her arms. Streamers and confetti drifted slowly down as the performance came to an end. It finally feels real. I'm back. Back as a sunshine-like teacher. A voice called from outside the door. Teacher Ivna. Two women looked dejected. Would life be happier if I lived like a sparrow? Yeah, then I wouldn't have to work. I could build a house without spending money. Most importantly, I wouldn't have to prepare a Children's Day event. Ivna touched her forehead and smiled in relief. The Empire has Children's Day too, just like other countries. Ivna jolted awake, gripping the documents in her hand. There's nowhere to run now. She stood up. Stop avoiding it. Let's start preparing for the event meeting. One female teacher suggested, can't we just go watch the puppet troupe like last year? Another teacher answered, I checked too, but their reputation is too good. They're on a continental tour right now. A female teacher pushed open the door. I'm looking into other venues we can reserve. Ivna turned around. Goodness, you're already having the meeting. The headmistress entered the room. Headmistress. The headmistress waved gently. It's fine. Everyone, please sit. Resting her cheek on one hand, she smiled broadly. I came to introduce our new assistant teacher. Teacher Fellerix. Please come in. One female teacher muttered under her breath. Fellerix? That's a man's name. Male teachers are rare. Another female teacher whispered, since he's strong, just make him do the heavy lifting. Use him as a mover. Ivna softly called, Teacher. Her memory flashed back to that person. That knew, a bolt of lightning tore through the darkness. A massive battle axe appeared. At the kindergarten, Ivna's pupils contracted, reflecting the cold gleam of the axe. Teacher. A man walked into the room with a pickaxe resting on his shoulder. Beneath his open shirt, his muscles were clearly defined. Sweat rolled down his cheek as he looked around in confusion. What's going on here? Ivna looked up at the man before her. A farmer? A lumberjack? Is he really a teacher? The man's gaze was steady, and beneath his open collar his abdominal muscles were sharply outlined. His body is too perfect. He's definitely not some ordinary laborer. Ivna's cheeks flushed. Oh my! The female teachers behind Ivna covered their mouths, staring in shock. Ivna's face turned bright red, her eyes darting. Honestly, you brat. The headmistress smacked the man lightly. What is with that outfit? And why are you carrying an axe? The man looked annoyed. I was chopping firewood and came straight here. What's the big deal? The headmistress trembled with anger. Show some respect to the other teachers. Apologize right now. The man looked indifferent. Apologize? It's so hot I'm dying. The headmistress stepped forward. Teachers, I'm very sorry. This is my nephew, Fellerix. He's still a bit immature. Ivna laughed awkwardly. He certainly is. Startling. The headmistress said, Teacher Ivna, please take good care of him. He's strong and smart too. Feel free to make full use of him. To be honest, he may even be easier to handle than a sunny child. Ivna's cheeks flushed. Igriegagis. The headmistress clapped her hands. All right, let's introduce ourselves first. Then she turned back. Oh, the headmistress watched her nephew walk away and shouted, Fellerix, Fellerix. Oh dear, my knee. Fellerix strode off at a rapid pace. Headmistress, I'm leaving first. Ivna watched his retreating back. Why does he walk so fast? She hurried after him. Teacher Fellerix, may I speak with you? She reached out and caught his sleeve. Fellerix turned around irritably. You're so annoying. He flung Ivna's hand off roughly, and the force made her stagger back in alarm. She lost her balance and fell backward. Fellerix reacted just as quickly. He caught Ivna around the waist and pulled her into his arms. Their bodies pressed together, Fellerix's hot breath falling across Ivna. He looked flustered. Are you made of paper? I didn't even do anything. How did you fall? Ivna came back to her senses. You pushed so hard. Of course I fell. What kind of strength is that? Fellerix steadied Ivna on her feet, then swiftly let go and stepped back. He turned and started to leave. Ivna chased after him. He stopped abruptly and turned around. I didn't mean to grab you. Stop following me. Ivna clasped her hands before her chest. Sorry. It's not like I want to follow you either. Ivna held out her hand. At the very least, we should exchange names. Fellerix put his hands on his hips. What? Why? Ivna wore a professional smile. It's basic courtesy for teachers. Ivna smiled brightly. Come on, repeat after me. I'm Fellerix. Nice to meet you. Fellerix looked annoyed. Why do I have to say that? You already know my name. Ivna kept smiling. As I said, it's basic courtesy. The smile never left her face. Besides, I'm your superior. If you get along with me, your life will be much easier. Authority practically radiated off Ivna. Fellerix said nothing and looked down at the hand she was offering. Looking unwilling, Fellerix finally took it. I'm Fellerix. Nice to meet you. Aivna replied. I'm Aivna. Nice to meet you. Felix asked impatiently. That's enough, right? Ivna stiffened in place. She was too stunned to speak. What? Ivna let go of his hand. Teacher Felix, I don't know how spoiled you've been since childhood, but Felix turned away. I'm leaving first. The next day, Ivna appeared holding a stack of documents. Teacher Felix, didn't you say you'd work overtime today? Felix didn't even turn his head. Did I? I don't remember. Teacher Felix, you promised to check the teaching samples with me. Felix waved a hand. Oh, the headmistress told me to run an errand. I'm going. Ivna watched Felix walk away. This man is definitely trouble. She put her hands on her hips, displeased. Especially since the moment he sees me, he runs off. At this rate, forget guidance. I can't even have a normal conversation with him. Ivna sighed. Forget it. I should go back to work first. In the sunset, the academy building was quiet and solemn. Ivna entered the office. Let's see. If I just finish this document. The door opened. Ivna looked up. Beghid was already at the door. Teacher. So you're here. Ivna looked puzzled. Your Majesty, why are you here? Beghid walked in slowly. My younger brother's teacher was abused and then overworked. How could I not come? Beghid leaned against the desk. And I must also concern myself with the Empire's future. Your Majesty is as perceptive as ever. Ivna turned toward the tea cabinet. You always use that excuse when you come. I'll make you some tea. Please sit. Beghid watched Ivna's back. Light footsteps approached. Ivna paused. Footsteps? Aren't all the teachers off work already? The footsteps drew closer. Wait. These hurried steps. Teacher Felix? Felix suddenly pushed open the office door. He looked around. HM? His bag is still in the office. I even went out of my way to buy teaching samples. Did he go to the restroom? Ivna's heart began to race. Teacher Felix. Wasn't he already off work? Felix stood by the desk. Why has he suddenly become so diligent? Beghid pinned Ivna against the wall, shielding her with his body. Even if you don't care, at least explain. Please, just leave work on time for once. Teacher Felix. Felix clicked his tongue lightly. Forget it. It's not like I meant to make it obvious. Taking care of that teacher is too troublesome. What's with my personality? Felix strode away. The office door slowly opened. I'm gonna let out a breath. Looks like I can go now. Beghid apologized. That must have put you in a difficult position. Sorry for disturbing you. Teacher. Ivna looked up, bewildered. Beghid bent down, pressing Ivna against the wall. Am I getting too close to you? Would that trouble you? Beghid's face drew near, his breath warm. I won't trouble you, teacher. His voice trembled faintly. Teacher, do you think I'm pathetic? Ivna forced out a smile. What? And not at all. Your Majesty is the treasure of the nation. Beghid's eyes turned cold, and a mocking curve touched his lips. The pillar of a nation? Ha ha ha, what a heartbreak. He pinned Ivna to the wall and slammed his fist against it. Execution. Ivna's pupils shook violently. What? Her gaze lost focus as she babbled in defense. And not exactly. Strictly speaking, touching the imperial body is a grave crime. But is that the problem here? Beghid said nothing. Then he let out a low laugh, followed by laughter he couldn't suppress. Ha! Beghid drew his hand back and looked at Ivna with smiling eyes. I was joking, teacher. Why would I kill one of the Empire's precious talents? It felt as if Ivna's soul had left her body. What kind of emperor makes that sort of joke? Ivna said helplessly. Your Majesty really doesn't have a talent for jokes. Beghid spread his hands, a trace of self-mockery on his face. I'm good at everything. It's all right if there's one thing I'm not good at. Crossing his arms, he examined Ivna. Teacher Ivna, your complexion is terrible. It seems what you need isn't poison, but tonics. I'll have them prepared, starting tomorrow. Ivna sensed something was wrong. Your Majesty, what's wrong? Beghid lowered his eyes. I'll come again next time. Ivna pressed, Your Majesty? Beghid turned away. I have urgent business. Ivna watched his back. Are you leaving now? And your guards? The distant clock tower was bathed in the evening glow. Beghid's voice drifted back. They'll follow from far away. They won't be noticed. Ivna bowed respectfully. Please go safely, Your Majesty. Then she straightened up, looking puzzled. That expression just now was strange. Beghid disappeared around the corner. His eyes had gone cold. It was as if I felt killing intent. Inside the office, the headmistress said to Ivna, Student Aristi of the Hespen family has suddenly stopped coming class. Yes, we sent several letters, but there has been no reply. A name surfaced in Ivna's mind. Aristi, Class 4. He'd been one of the main villains in the original story, but he'd always attended school normally. I thought there wouldn't be a problem. The headmistress looked serious. It's only the beginning of term, so missing even a few days is serious. Children's Day is also approaching, Teacher Ivna. Then we only have one option left. Ivna wiped at her hands. Yes, we'll have to do that. So, I arrived at Duke Hespin's estate. Perhaps because she thought it inappropriate for me to go out alone, the headmistress assigned me one assistant. But honestly, I'd rather have come alone. Teacher Fellerix. Fellerix stood with his hands on his hips. Teacher, you can't sit through a long carriage ride. So we got off midway and walked. You look pretty happy walking. Ivna mimicked his tone. Otherwise, your muscles will waste away. Walk fast here. Jog slowly there. Stretch up and down to keep your balance. She rubbed her temples. My ears are getting calluses. Fellerix argued. It's not like you were bleeding. And we made it safely to the carriage station. The coachman shouted. Next, we're about to depart. Ivna turned to him. To Hespin Manor, 30 Filman. The coachman froze. HM? A childish voice rang out. Teacher Ivna? Ivna turned at the sound. Merlin? Merlin came running excitedly. Teacher Fellerix is here too. Fellerix looked at Merlin. Merlin, were you out playing? Merlin looked up and replied, I want to play at Father Uncle's house. He grinned happily. Father Uncle is a shy person. I wanted to play longer, but I think you want to go home. Merlin turned to Ivna. Teacher, are you out playing too? Ivna didn't know how to answer. No. How should I put this? Fellerix spoke up. We went to a friend's house. Do you want to come too? Merlin's eyes lit up. Friend? Teacher Fellerix, Merlin likes friends. Merlin smiled brightly. I'm going. Ivna nodded to the priest. Sorry for the trouble. We'll take good care of him. The priest bowed stiffly. And no, we will make sure he returns safely. And so, we arrived at Duke Hespin's estate. Aristide's voice rang out. Teacher Ivna, you've come. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Ivna looked at the girl, who had come out personally to greet her. You are honored guests. As a lady of the house, I should naturally come greet you in person, teacher. This is the respect nobles show their teachers. Aristide gave Ivna a slight curtsy. You're so considerate. Thank you. Aristide smiled sweetly. I even prepared some very sweet tea. But Aristide's smile remained lovely. I can only entertain 2 teachers. As a lady, I do not wish to offend my guests. But Merlin hid behind Ivna, showing only half his face. My family is allergic to ugly things. So she's a villain. Merlin asked in confusion. What does allergic mean? It was a terrible idea to let these 2 nemeses meet. The butler stepped forward. Miss, I will see them out. They are honored guests. I must properly attend to both teachers. Ivna fell into thought. Should she let the other one stay behind? Ivna gently said to Aristide, it's not good to say cruel things to your friends. You should greet each other politely, right? Aristide looked at Merlin. Since teacher says so, I will obey. Welcome, you ugly little thing. Merlin looked puzzled. HM? Merlin knew what ugly meant. The butler gestured the way. Teachers, the drawing room is this way. Fellerix lifted Merlin into the air, and Merlin struggled frantically. Ivna could not help laughing. Ha. Yes, thank you. Aristide sat upright on the sofa. This is fragrant tea imported from abroad, teacher. Ivna picked up the teacup. Thank you, Aristide. You said your parents aren't home? Aristide lowered her eyes. Yes, mother told me to entertain you properly. What a bother. Ivna smiled. You're very mature. You already know how to receive guests. Teacher also has something she wants to ask you directly. Merlin stuffed cake into his mouth, his eyes shining. Ivna set down her teacup, smiling gently. By the way, why haven't you been coming to school lately? Aristide looked at the cake. My cake seems a little strange. I'll specially reward that ugly thing with it. She pushed the cake toward Merlin. Ivna saw through Aristide's intention. She was avoiding the question. Ivna pressed on. Why aren't you going to school? Don't you want to go? Aristide fell silent, clutching the hem of her skirt tightly. Merlin chewed noisily, speaking unclearly through the pastry. Hey, Aristide, do you think school is a playground? Come when you want, leave when you want. You sound like an old man when you talk. Aristide glared at him. You're so rude. Merlin continued. Aristide, you're already shirking your responsibilities. If this keeps up, you'll grow ugly. Merlin swallowed the last bite of cake. Or do you have some enormous reason? Aristide gripped her skirt with both hands until her knuckles turned white. Her voice trembled. I do have a reason. Because. Aristide looked troubled. Because my older sister is sick. I can't leave the house. Ivna looked up, searching her face. Sick? How serious is your sister's illness? Is there a doctor? What kind of illness is it? Aristide's cheeks reddened, and she pressed her hands to them. Lovesickness. My sister, she. Ivna was speechless. Lovesickness? Her tone became firm and undeniable. Aristide, starting tomorrow, you must come back to kindergarten. Aristi still tried to struggle. Heavens, this is a major matter. My sister is kind-hearted. It's too cruel that she got lovesick. I have to nurse her back to health. Once my sister recovers, I'll go to kindergarten. Agnes said blankly, "Is that so?" Felix asked. "It sounds like you've run into trouble. What will you do?" Ivna wiped at her sweat. "Yes. What should I do? Why are you smiling so happily?" Ivna smiled. "Could I learn a little more about your sister's lovesickness?" Aristi's eyes darted away. "I don't really know. The name she cries out changes every day. I think she may have fallen in love with several people at once." Ivna smiled. "More than one person? Your sister is quite passionate and unrestrained." Then a choked sob came from somewhere. Hedrix, how could you do this to me?" The voice came from behind the door. "Is that your sister?" The crying sounded pitiful and fragile. "That bastard Hedrix, I won't let you go. You shameless bastard." Aristi pointed toward the door. "Look, the name changed again. So it really isn't just one person." Ivna looked awkward. "Aristi, please forget those names." A woman screamed behind the door. "The moment that woman came back, you left. How could you do this? You said you had broken up. You said you had already forgotten her." The door was flung open, and a purple-haired woman burst out. Her face was twisted, and her eyes were vacant. She looked around. "What? Who are you people, sneaking into my house like rats?" Ivna instinctively stepped back. Merlin clung tightly to her. She's scary." The purple-haired woman muttered, "If you don't answer, I'll tear you apart." "Too scary." Aristi grabbed the woman's clothes tightly. "Sister, please calm down. They're my guests." The woman looked puzzled. "Guests? Why, yes. This is my kindergarten teacher. Teacher Ivna." The purple-haired woman's hollow gaze shifted. "Teacher, can you?" Aristi urgently hugged the woman. "Teacher, I'm so glad to see you. She's amazing. She could do anything." Aristi looked at Ivna with bright expectation. "So she can definitely help you, sister." Ivna forced out a smile. Her smile stiffened. "What?" The purple-haired woman sat on the sofa. "My fiancé's former lover has returned. Everything started from that." Hedrix began to waver. The purple-haired woman clasped her hands together. "Of course, I trust Hedrix. He's kind by nature. Perhaps he just couldn't bear to be cold to her. But what if that bastard Hedrix still likes her and keeps getting entangled with her?" Her eyes widened. "What if he still hasn't forgotten her? What if they share secrets? What if they're plotting something together? What if he plans to abandon me? What if they've prepared a ship and carriage and plan to elope overnight? What if I'm just a fool being toyed with? What if Hedrix is playing with me?" Ivna handed her a cup of tea. "Please calm down. Have some tea and catch your breath." The purple-haired woman took the teacup, sobbing. "Thank you, teacher." Ivna remained calm inside. This sort of thing happens everywhere. There was plenty of it in the 21st century before I reincarnated too. Felix said, "Why did you pick up that kind of trash? If you don't kill it, throw it away." Ivna winced. He's not wrong. But could I really kill him? The purple-haired woman's hands trembled. "And no." Ivna hurriedly soothed her. "My lady, please calm down. There must be a better way that doesn't break the law." The purple-haired woman said, "Could it be, teacher?" Ivna answered helplessly, "I only came here for an enrollment consultation. And somehow I ended up hearing far too much." But the purple-haired woman, tears in her eyes, clutched Ivna's hand tightly. How could I possibly ignore tears like these? Then a woman in a wide-brimmed hat spoke up. "Are you talking about Marquis Richel Hedrix? There are many rumors in high society. They say he's openly meeting his former lover now. They say he's shameless. They even say he'll attend the upcoming rare book auction." Ivna repeated, "The auction?" The lady in the hat smiled. "Teacher, do you also like rare books? I happen to have an extra invitation. Would you be willing to go in our place?" Ivna was stunned. "What? How could I? Thanks to you, my child has become much brighter. I'll have it sent to the school. Please do accept it." Ivna accepted with difficulty. "Then I will gratefully accept." Everything was going too smoothly. Too smoothly. Ivna pressed a hand to her forehead, looking troubled. "Why does buying a book have to be so difficult? And of all times, both my brothers are away on business. The auction is just around the corner too. I can't exactly split myself in two. What should I do?" In that case, Ivna sank into thought. Maybe I should ask a guardian, or find an unmarried man around my age. She picked up her pen, several figures flashing through her mind, but they were all too busy. Wait, Ivna suddenly had an idea. "No, there is one candidate. I heard he's at the training grounds here." Ivna thought, "Oh dear, Two shirtless men were training, their sweat glistening in the light. Everyone here is working so hard. A faint blush rose to Ivna's cheeks. I should do home visits more often. Then a voice called out, Miss Ivna. John extended a hand. Sorry you had to see me just after training, looking so disheveled. Ivna folded her hands. No, not at all. I'm the one who came so suddenly. You don't need to cover up. John put on an outer robe. It's getting late. Have you eaten yet? Ivna nodded. Ah, yes, I have, Guardian. You must be hungry after training. John chuckled. I'm fine, but the knights are probably starving. The knights whispered among themselves. Hey, go on inside. John looked at her gently. More importantly, what brought you here? Did Merlin cause trouble again? Ivna waved her hands quickly. Merlin has been very good lately. Absolutely no trouble. Well, it's like this. John smiled. Haha, teacher, it's rare to see you hesitate like this. Whatever it is, just say it. Ivna began. I received an invitation to a high-class auction. It says I need a male escort. John agreed without hesitation. Fine, I'll go. Ivna looked a little surprised. Aren't you going to ask what kind of auction it is? John seemed enthusiastic. I love auctions. When is it? Ivna answered, 3 days from now. John's smile froze. Sorry, teacher. John lowered his gaze. I'm afraid I can't that day. He looked up again, his gaze steady. That's the day my engagement will be announced. The day the engagement proclamation is released. Ivna covered her mouth, eyes full of shock. Oh my, you're getting engaged? John lowered his eyes, the faintest smile at the corner of his lips. Something like that. Ivna quickly waved her hands. Oh dear, I nearly said something terribly rude. John looked at her calmly. Rude? Not at all. Ivna grew flustered. Of course it would be rude. You've already even set the date. Ivna clenched her fists. Before the announcement is made, I will keep it absolutely secret. I wish your romance every happiness. Good luck. I can go to the auction with someone else, so please focus on preparing for it. Ivna turned and ran off, loudly shouting, good luck. John watched her retreating figure as she fled with astonishing speed, so as not to become the rumored female friend of an ordinary man. Teacher, you've already said good luck twice. He gave a soft laugh. Ivna's figure vanished into the distance, leaving only an empty hall behind. John fell silent. He covered his forehead with one hand and closed his eyes. This is driving me mad. Ivna tapped a finger against her chin. All right, time to start plan B. I had a feeling, so I prepared a visitation request in advance. A carrier pigeon flew off with an envelope toward the Grand Ducal estate. Given the circumstances, Ivna smiled. I hope you'll accompany me, Great Duke Hildebrand. Caden remained expressionless. Ivna hurriedly added, of course, if it's inconvenient for you, please refuse directly. Caden remained silent. Ivna looked uncertain. After all, this has no direct connection to Bantad's education. I can't read what he's thinking at all. Is it not possible? He became so tense. Caden seemed to be weighing the possibilities. After a moment, he finally spoke. Very well, I'll go. Ivna suddenly looked up. Really? Caden asked back. Is there any reason not to? On the day of the auction, I'll come to Belchester Manor. Ivna explained, I wasn't doubting your kindness. Then I'll see you that day at the auction. Ivna rose to leave. Caden asked, you're leaving already? I'll walk you out. Ivna turned back, a bright smile on her face. The weather is so nice. I can leave on my own. Thank you for making time despite your busy schedule. Caden looked at her. Very well. If you insist on walking alone, I won't stop you. Goodbye. The Grand Ducal doors shut heavily. Caden stood there alone. I wonder which of us is the one feeling pressured. On the day of the auction, Ivna wore a splendid pink gown. Oh my! She stared at herself in the mirror in disbelief. Caden had sent this outfit. Only those whose clothing reflects their status may enter. Ivna stared at her reflection. The Belchester family is noble too, but this outfit is far too luxurious. How much must it have cost? Ivna gave a bitter smile. I feel so shabby by comparison. Miss Ivna, the carriage has arrived. A maid ran over. Wow, you look so beautiful. Where are you going? Ivna gave a light laugh. This is only an extension of my work. Do you do business with such handsome men? Caden walked toward the carriage, and Ivna's gaze followed him. Caden turned around. Are you ready? His deep red eyes fixed on Ivna. It suits you well, teacher. Ivna's cheeks reddened. Wow, that is entirely thanks to your excellent taste. I'll wear it properly and return it after cleaning it. Caden said, that won't be necessary. It's a gift, but that would make me feel terribly indebted. Caden replied, refusing my goodwill would be even ruder. The carriage door opened. Ivna climbed inside. Then I'll happily accept it. Ivna suddenly sniffed the air. By the way, do you smell something burned? Caden rested his head on one hand. Quite calmly, he replied, it's probably the smell of gunpowder. I came straight from the Imperial Magic Bureau. Ivna covered her mouth, startled. What do you mean? Did you have work today? Caden kept his eyes closed. Nothing difficult. Ivna hurriedly waved her hands. But you just got off work. You must want to rest. It's fine if we turn back now. Caden opened his eyes. It's fine. There's nothing to do even if I return. It was only a matter of firing a few shots. Ivna smiled and asked, You don't use expressions like firing shots in front of Bantad, do you? Caden smiled too. Of course not. I pay attention to his emotional development. Ivna looked out the window. We should be arriving soon. Please, Great Duke, put on a black mask. Please wear your mask. This is a private auction. So soon? All right. Under the moonlight stood a brilliantly lit mansion. This looked more like a party or a casino than a rare book auction. Caden held out his arm. There are a lot of people. Hold on to me. Like dance partners. Ivna quickly took his arm. Yes. A blond man in an ornate mask murmured. It's been a long time since we've been here, hasn't it? The woman beside him replied, Yes. Edrix? No, Edrix. That was the name of Aristides' sister's fiancé. Ivna's thoughts flashed. Hedrix continued, Annie, I'm so glad I could come here with you. I'll give you the most beautiful thing here. Ivna, wearing her mask, looked conflicted. People don't usually describe rare books as beautiful, do they? Caden asked quietly, Teacher, you didn't come here just for the auction, did you? Ivna answered softly, No, I want to follow someone. Following people isn't really my style, right? He preferred knocking them down directly. Hedrix and Annie stood at a distance. It's about to begin, Caden murmured. Given the atmosphere here, we should probably act more intimate. That will make tracking them easier. Ivna looked a little concerned. If you get dragged into my business like this, are you really all right with it? Caden leaned closer. If we're going to do this, we should do it properly. His lips nearly brushed Ivna's ear. Darling. Ivna's whole body stiffened. Caden took her hand. Let's go. It's starting. Ivna was pulled forward. All right. Caden reminded her in a low voice. Watch your step. Ivna quickly responded, Right. Ivna looked around the dazzlingly ornate hall. Come to think of it, the more I look, the less this feels like an auction house. It feels vulgar somehow. Caden softly cut in. Darling, mind your wording. Ivna gave an embarrassed laugh. Right. And the smell is strange too. The smile faded from her face. A metallic smell, rushed, and another sickening odor. Arm in arm with Caden, Ivna climbed the stairs. Right? This building must have been used for something else originally. Then how are books normally stored? Ivna thought it through. Rare books are made of oiled paper. They're very sensitive to light and temperature. She continued analyzing. So rare book auctions are held only in specific venues. There are very few places that meet the requirements. In places like that, you can usually smell the rich scent of books in the air. But this place is completely different. Caden's eyes sharpened. In its place is a smell that gives you a headache. It's blood, the heavy scent of blood, fresh blood. Beneath the spotlight, the auctioneer spread his arms wide. Thank you, honored guests, for your patience. In the audience, every pair of eyes lit up. The auctioneer's voice echoed out. Now then, let this grand event begin. The auction officially opened. Heavy chains dragged across the floor. Bare feet stumbled forward, shackled. Our first item comes from South Zagulus. An 18-year-old male, grass-fed for 3 years. Pure, top-grade bloodline. A masked blonde woman turned to her companion. Darling, I want that one. Her companion chuckled. But I'd be jealous of a man. A masked man murmured, 18? About the same age as our son. The best age, really. The woman beside him appraised the captive. Very cute, though he has some scratches on him. Women should fix that, right? Ivna went rigid. How can they talk about a person as if he were an object? No wonder they had searched so long and never found it. So that's it. Isn't this the illegal slave auction the Great Duke has been investigating? Ivna's pupils contracted. Could it be? Ivna leaned close to Caden's ear. Darling, that thing we discussed before. Caden replied, Yes. This is the place. Caden's gaze darkened. No wonder we couldn't find any leads. At this rate, I was beginning to think I'd die before finding it. Ivna sensed the strange atmosphere around them. If this continues, I'm going to look suspicious. She called out quietly, darling. Caden's arm wrapped around her waist. Didn't I say? Those words are only for me. You're making me jealous. Caden's breath brushed Ivna's ear. Darling, wasn't what you heard last night enough? Ivna's cheeks flushed. Oh no, others will hear. Caden gave a low chuckle. But darling, you were the one who started it. A man in the next seat grumbled quietly, but he's really ugly. Bow-legged too. The woman beside him agreed. Yes, we finally managed to come out on a date, and this is what we get? His face is decent enough, though. How about hanging him in the drawing room as decoration? Disgust rose in Ivna's chest. What kind of nonsense are they saying? Revolting. Does Miss Restia know? Her fiancé isn't merely trash. He's industrial-grade toxic waste. Ivna shuddered. Caden noticed. Darling, are you all right? Caden's arm tightened. Shall I pull you even closer? Ivna forced a laugh. Haha, thank you, darling. I simply ate too much at dinner. Caden leaned close to her ear. Let me ask you something. His voice dropped lower. Is following them really that important? Ivna said nothing. Caden's gaze passed over Ivna toward the distant pair. If those two escape from our hands, what happens? Would that be a serious problem? Caden murmured, If they escape, I think I'll beat them to death. And by coincidence, Ivna answered with a smile. I don't like sneaking around following people either. Her smile turned cold. I prefer turning the whole place upside down. The corner of Caden's lips curved upward in a faint smile. He murmured approvingly, Darling, I like your elegant taste. Then came a tremendous crash. The iron chain holding the chandelier snapped, and it came crashing down. Screams erupted through the crowd. A man shouted, It's dangerous. This way. Caden raised his pistol, pointing it straight at the ceiling. He pulled the trigger. The auctioneer's face turned pale. I shall not have guessed. The auctioneer tried to steady himself. It's nothing serious. There's only been a minor issue with the facilities. Please remain seated. He tried to continue. We'll proceed with the auction. A guest roared. Proceed in this chaos? Are you insane? Caden ordered in a low voice. There's a carriage waiting outside. Run first. Ivna hesitated. If I leave first. Your Grace. Ivna's consciousness began to blur. Strange. My senses and hearing. It feels like I've been hit by a carriage. Run away? If I get into a carriage now and leave, will I really be safe? Before that, what about Great Duke Hildebrand? Caden noticed something was wrong. Teacher, are you all right? Ivna came back to herself. Yes, I'm fine. Then the mask on Ivna's face fell off. It hit the floor. A man rushed out from behind and seized Ivna. You bastards. I knew something was wrong. The man locked an arm around Ivna's neck. If you don't want the woman to die, put down the gun. The blade pressed against Ivna's throat. A thin line of blood appeared. The hostage-taker sneered. I should have done this from the start. Ivna cried out in terror. No. The hostage-taker ordered, now be obedient. Caden let go. The pistol fell onto the table. Before the hostage-taker could react, Caden had already lunged forward and slammed him violently to the ground. Caden's eyes were icy. I had already planned to throw the gun away. Ivna stared in shock. Wait, are you going to fight this many people barehanded? Caden asked, Are you all right? Ivna answered, Yes. I'm Euphine. The hostage-taker bellowed. He threw away the gun. Get those two bastards. A man whose dream was cut short collapsed in agony. A silver-white figure flashed past. A sword was drawn, the blade cutting through the air. John swung and felled one man. Blood spattered. Ivna cried out, Sir Dissat, weren't you supposed to attend your engagement banquet today? John said, I didn't go. It was only a hasty arrangement my father made for the temple's sake. A fake engagement to the daughter of some local lord. That's all. John smiled at her. Because you helped me that day at the picnic, I came to repay you. But it seems you already had a companion. Or is this person one of the participants here? With the Great Duke's personality, one or two twisted hobbies wouldn't be surprising. Ivna said he isn't. He came to protect me. Caden murmured, I have an idea. Knock out the Knight Commander and use him as bait while we escape. Ivna shook her head. Please calm down, sir. Knight Commander, it's too dangerous for you to come alone. Ivna, yes, dangerous. At that moment, I realized it. No, before I realized it, my body had already moved. Ivna seized the hilt of the dagger on the table and smashed it hard at the hostage-taker. John gasped. Teacher, I understand now. So this is... Ivna raised the dagger, her gaze resolute. White flowers bloomed silently. This is the talent of Ivna Winster. The dagger flew through the air and struck the hostage-taker's wrist with perfect accuracy. His blade clattered to the floor. A second dagger followed, pinning his other hand. Snowflowers bloomed as if a father's blessing had finally opened that day. Ivna panted. Sweat rolled down her face. The hostage-taker let out a scream and collapsed. Ivna raised the pistol and stepped back. John covered his mouth, staring at Ivna in disbelief. Wow, teacher used such a tiny knife. Caden rested his chin on his hand. Quite impressive technique. Did you specialize in throwing weapons? Ivna was stunned. What is wrong with these people? Why are they so calm? Footsteps echoed from the stairs. A fallen figure came into view. Ivna cried out, and more people are coming. It's so noisy. Are they guards from this place? John shielded Ivna behind him. Stay behind me. Teacher. Ivna's voice trembled. Sir Desat, there's more than one or two of them. We should get the Great Duke out first. The footsteps drew closer. John's expression turned grave. They've arrived. John lowered his eyes. You came. Ivan abruptly looked up, eyes widening. What? Captain, we're here. They were people from the Magic Empire. Trash like Hedrick's, luxuriating in things he had no right to enjoy. That runaway marquis should make a useful witness, using magic stones like pebbles. Caden walked forward slowly. The nobility lost interest in slave auctions long ago. It seems you like this place very much, if you keep coming back. Ivan turned to Caden. You knew this was where the slave auction was held? It used to be one of our surveillance points, Caden explained. It had gone quiet recently, so we stopped monitoring it. In order to wipe them out in one stroke, we pursued another lead instead. Caden gave a meaningful smile. Teacher, you truly are my lucky charm. Ivna laughed awkwardly. I was only doing kindergarten work and happened to save. Her words cut off. A sharp pain came from her palm. Mottled blood welled up there. John caught Ivna's wrist. Teacher, let me see your wound. He gently supported the back of Ivna's head, his gaze intent. Fortunately, it's not deep. John's fingertips brushed Ivna's neck. A flash of golden light appeared, and the wound healed instantly. But something filthy scratched you. It needs disinfecting. John asked quietly, Are you hurt anywhere else? Then he suddenly came back to himself. Sorry, that was too forward of me toward a lady. Ivna hurriedly waved her hands. Ha ha ha, no, I'm not hurt anywhere else. She stared at her palm in surprise. Wow, the blood already stopped. You're amazing. Ivna's eyes shone. It would be wonderful if you could come work in our kindergarten infirmary. John chuckled. If I could, I'd be delighted. John smiled. Then I'd be able to see you all the time. And Merlin too. And besides, before he could finish, Reztia rushed over. She punched her fiancé right in the face. And Miss Reztia too. With an over-the-shoulder throw, Reztia slammed Hedrick's hard onto the ground. I thought you were suspicious from the beginning, but I turned a blind eye because I truly loved you. Hedrick sprawled on the floor, pleading with Reztia. Please listen to me. I really did love you too. Reztia looked down at him. Do you know what the main work of the Hespen Duchy is? Slave relief. Welfare work. Reztia roared. Did you think I would forgive you for daring to betray my family's principles? She may once have cried for love, but in that moment, she was no longer a woman trapped by love. She was the noble Miss Hespen. 3 days later, beneath bright sunlight, Aristi ran across the garden. Teacher Ivna. Hello. Ivna greeted Aristi with a smile. You came. I'm glad your sister is all right. Aristi bowed slightly. Sister has completely recovered thanks to your attentive care. She's fully recovered now. Aristi smiled and gestured. Look over there. Ivna turned back in confusion. HM. Then a voice called out, Teacher. Reztia stood there holding a parasol, smiling brightly. Teacher. Ivna beamed. Miss Reztia, good morning. Reztia answered, a little stammering, Teacher, look, I'm very healthy now. I eat 5 meals a day and exercise diligently. Isn't that wonderful? Please praise me. Ivna laughed awkwardly. Wow, that's very impressive, Miss Reztia. Was she always like this? Reztia leaned close to Ivna. So then, after work today, Ivna's body stiffened as she stepped back. A frightening voice rang out. Miss, we should go. There's still work to be done. Aristi smugly said, See, teacher? Thanks to me, she's very healthy now, right? Yet another troublesome guardian had appeared. Aristi had returned. Before they even had time to celebrate Children's Day, it was already upon them. A few days earlier, Ivna had reported while holding a document. The next item on the agenda is the Children's Day event. The headmistress raised her hand. Teacher, if possible, I have a suggestion. Ivna nodded. Of course. The suggestions of one's superior are usually not suggestions at all. They are orders. The headmistress smiled broadly. We recently expanded the outdoor facilities. Let's have the children play together with their guardians. Ivna agreed. The weather's been very nice lately. That sounds good. How about holding a painting or writing contest? The headmistress suggested. Ivna's eyes lit up. A survival game. A survival game with toy guns and paint would be amazing. Don't you think? Ivna blurted it out. What? That sounds fun. The headmistress readily agreed. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Ivna's smile froze. Yes, an order is an order. Sunlight streamed through the leaves and covered the ground. Ivna tied Bantad's hat securely. There now. Bantad, this way your hat won't fall off. Ivna smiled and asked, is all your protective gear on properly? Yes. Big brother helped me. A faint blush rose to Ivna's cheeks. Big brother? You mean that expert in firearms and causing chaos? Caden was inspecting the pink toy gun in his hand. With lowered eyes, he said, the workmanship is better than I expected. It's hard to believe it's a toy. Aristi shouted excitedly, Sister, this is just like a small hunting rifle. Reztia corrected her. Oh heavens. Aristi, ladies do not shoot small animals. But when the target is a beast. Reztia raised the toy gun, her eyes sharp. Then one must give it one's all. She let out a light laugh. Merlin raised his gun. Bang, bang. John fell over dramatically. He shouted exaggeratedly, Wah, I'm dead. Merlin defeated me. Hey. The game hasn't even started yet. Stop fooling around. Begid bent down and whispered to Martian, if you take first place, I'll give you the Platinum Baron's castle I just acquired, as a commemoration of that bastard being publicly executed. He laughed lightly. Ivna sternly stopped him. Hey, please don't say things harmful to children's education. The battlefield that was about to unfold was obvious at a glance. I really didn't know whether I should be pleased. It suited our class all too well. Ivna thought helplessly. All the preparations are finished. Do you have an extra gun? Thank you, Teacher Fellerix. Even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. Then never mind. Everyone, please stand in your assigned teams. John and Beghid stood behind the children. To all students of the Sunshine class, this is a joyful and bright Children's Day. Ivna placed a hand over her chest. Solemn. Starting now, who can do the best? Sunlight pierced through the dense canopy. This year's Children's Day event was a tactile paint survival game. To prevent total chaos, toy guns had been introduced as well. Ivna looked around. In such a short time, they had somehow transformed the outdoors into something like a real jungle. Leaning against a tree trunk, Ivna smiled. Since everyone prepared so earnestly, I hope the children have fun. I also hope they learn something from competition. A flash of red streaked by. Ivna's smile froze. Red paint burst across her chest like a blooming flower. Aria's pupils contracted suddenly. She looked down in disbelief, several crimson drops spattering her cheek. She stood there dumbfounded. Merlin stuck his head out from between the branches. Isn't that Teacher Ivna? Merlin wore a helmet and gripped a toy gun. His gaze was wary. Ivna looked down at Merlin. Merlin, you seem to be having fun. I'm having fun too. Fun. This isn't a game. Merlin's eyes sharpened. Merlin is a warrior now. Warriors do not understand fun. They only know enemies and allies, and the things they must protect. My conviction. In a forest clearing, Merlin and Ivna faced off. The atmosphere was tense. John's voice came from far away. Surely you mean Faith? Ivna cried out, Merlin. A streak of blue light flashed past. John appeared instantly and swept Merlin up in one arm. Blue paint splashed onto the ground. John looked down at Merlin in his arms. Careful, your clothes were almost going to get dirty. Merlin struggled and jumped down. Merlin doesn't need help, because Merlin is a warrior. Ivna looked up toward the tree branch. At some point, John was already sitting there, Merlin still in his arms. Ivna said, yes, Merlin is an excellent warrior. What did you get up there? Martian snorted. Impressive. Martian appeared from behind the trees. Too slow. He held a pink toy gun and also carried a shield in front of him. Ivna's expression sharpened. Martian, using unapproved equipment is against the rules. Ivna held out her hand. Please put the shield down, all right? No, teacher. Merlin was being held up by John, but his eyes were steady on Martian. Merlin is a warrior. This is a battlefield. On the battlefield, there are no rules, and there is no mercy. Martian curled his lips. That's the first sensible thing I've ever heard you say. Merlin's eyes turned cold. It will also be the last. Martian, because today I'm settling everything with you. Merlin raised his toy gun. A pink dragon-shaped aura coiled behind him, bristling with killing intent. Martian dropped to one knee and raised his shield. Dust swirled beneath his feet. A decisive battle that would stake their fates began. Ivna folded her arms and looked on helplessly. These two children seemed to be having a lot of fun. Merlin puffed out his cheeks, clearly dissatisfied. Ivna's voice rang out. Merlin, you're out. Please leave the game area. John gently patted Merlin's head. Good work. Merlin, Martian mocked him. Go back and practice more, rookie. Merlin trembled with rage. Martian, you idiot. Moron. Bug. Martian grinned. Cry all you want. Loser. Martian raised his toy gun. Victors prove themselves through action alone. On the other side, a pink beam shot out and an unfamiliar voice rang out. Oh, A girl hung upside down from a branch. Aristi said, "You let your guard down, Martian." Ivna looked up in alarm. "Aristi, how did you get up there?" Aristi landed lightly and turned to Ivna. "Teacher, I practiced today." This level is the basic refinement of a lady. Ivna was inwardly perplexed. "No, I don't think this is basic refinement at all. And my sister was up there signaling me." Ivna went blank. "Is your noble family a household or a special forces unit?" Aristi pointed at Reztia in the distance. "My sister is right there. Anyway, loser number 0, I will inherit your will and win this game." Martian looked baffled. "We're on the same team." Aristi placed her hands on her hips. "I have no interest in a man who only bullies losers." "Teacher, please hurry and announce it." My bullet pierced that poor prince's heart. Ivna turned to Martian. "The rules state that anyone hit by a paint bullet is out." "Martian, you're out." Begid's expression darkened. "The Hespen family. I'll remember this." Aria's voice rang out. "Guardians, please do not mix personal grudges into this. Now only 2 teams remain." Ivna stood beside Aristi. Aristi laughed softly. "Victory is mine anyway." "Teacher, hurry and end the event." Reztia rested her chin in her hands, her eyes dreamy. "Yes, teacher, the weather is so lovely. Hurry and end it. Then come to my house for tea and sweets. Just the 2 of us." Reztia abruptly came back to herself. Aristi urged, "Teacher, hurry and declare me the winner." Ivna looked at Aristi. "I can't do that. The remaining team is—" A voice cut through the stillness. "Get down." A red streak tore through the air. Aristi immediately threw herself to the ground. Aristi said, "What an ungrateful little brat. This is his true nature. I gave him snacks. I treated him so well. Yet people always say you should never take in a black-haired beast." Aristi shouted, "Bantad." Bantad answered, "I'm not a beast." Aristi continued, "Wandering around all by yourself. Don't you have a guardian? You must have thought I was an easy target." Bantad answered, No, Big Brother is over there." In the clearing, Caden was kneeling on the ground, his arm hit with red paint. Ivna stood behind him. Aristi gasped, "Oh no, oh no, have you already surrounded me?" "No, you were protecting teacher." Aristi turned and shouted, "Sister, hurry and signal me." Reztia panicked. Sister." She clutched her skirt, fear in her eyes. "What if I start stammering again? What if I ruin everything again?" Teacher said to stay calm and composed, but I always get overwhelmed by urgent situations. Aristi shouted, "Sister, hurry and signal me." A red flash streaked out. Aristi froze. Her face was splattered with red paint. And so the lively Children's Day event came safely to an end. Under the bright sun, Ivna smiled and announced everyone worked hard. Every child who enjoyed the process, win or lose, is a winner, right? The girls all cheered in unison. Ivna continued, "Thank you to every family that participated." Reztia moved closer. "Teacher, have dinner with me." Aristi grabbed Reztia and dragged her away. Reztia protested unwillingly. "Yes, you worked hard. Wherever there is joy, there is often also exhaustion. Life is full of mixed flavors." The exam period quietly arrived. No entry. The large red letters were especially eye-catching. Exam season had quietly descended. A heavy wooden door remained tightly shut. A notice was posted on it. "Students keep out during exam preparation." Sunlight shone through the empty corridor as a female teacher approached with 2 children. A blonde girl pointed ahead. "Teacher, he keeps calling me an idiot." The gray-haired boy protested indignantly. "She tried to peek at my test paper last year." No entry was written on the office door. The teacher urged them on. "Hurry home now." Ivna watched them leave. The 7-year-old class is still just as intense. Arya sat across from Ivna. Whenever exam season comes, the mother salons also go into emergency mode. The Guardians Information Network seems to know even more than we do. Ivna nodded. "It really does feel that way at times like this. Still, I'm glad the system was able to take root." The table was piled high with neatly arranged test papers. Arya recalled, "When you first said we should hold exams, didn't everyone laugh at you?" A female teacher looked surprised. "Was it Miss Ivna who introduced exams?" Arya replied, "Yes. Back then she was—" Ivna's eyes had shone so brightly when she persuaded the headmistress. She really looked wonderful. I still remember what she said then. In a golden light, Ivna's figure seemed to reappear. Holding up a book, she pointed decisively. "If kindergarten is to become a formal educational institution," Ivna's voice was firm and powerful, "then it needs specific measures of educational achievement." The female teacher clasped her hands, her eyes full of admiration. "You were really amazing back then." Ivna laughed lightly. "Ha. I simply pushed it through by force." Ivna bit the end of her pen, eyes sharp. Is this what they call reaping what you sow? Everyone, have some sugar and replenish your energy. The headmistress brought over a box of sweets. Ivna looked delighted. Oh my, thank you, headmistress. The female teacher looked at the sweets. Wow, aren't these those strawberry sweets that have been so popular lately? Arya picked one up. How did you get these? They're delicious. A document drifted down and landed before a tightly shut wooden door. A noble woman in a wide-brimmed hat stood there. Sunlight filtered through the leaves onto her. Son, don't be nervous. Just act like you usually do. A little boy in green looked up, his eyes firm. Yes, mother. The walk to school today was different from usual. Children played in the park. To keep them from feeling burdened by the exams, a special event was being held. A female teacher walked alongside Ivna. This time the theme is Eastern Continent style, right? They spotted the boy in green. He's even wearing a matching outfit. Ivna smiled. How adorable. I'm glad the children are enjoying themselves. Ivna pressed a finger to her chin. HM, if you look over there. A black-haired boy was crying his eyes out and shouting, "Thank you, mother and father, for raising me." The boy suddenly dropped to his knees and kowtowed. This unfilial son will use today as a stepping stone and become a son you can be proud of. The boy's parents were in tears. The husband supported his wife. My dear, I think we raised our child too well. Ivna stared at the scene expressionlessly. Why does this feel so familiar? Ivna looked to the side. Wait, the children from my class should be arriving soon too. Merlin held his school bag high and jumped excitedly. I love exams the most. Kindergarten. If school ends early, I can play with my brother. John smiled and waved to Merlin. I hope you have a pleasant day today. Ivna turned around. So His Majesty canceled the nobles' meeting and came here. Since all the nobles with children are here, the meeting naturally cannot be held. Fortunately, he seems the same as usual. A little boy ran over and grabbed Ivna's red skirt tightly. Teacher. Ivna smiled and crouched down. Good morning, Bantad. Did you sleep well last night? Bantad nodded. Ivna stood back up. Caden was standing in front of her. He asked in a low voice, "Won't you ask me to?" Ivna looked up at Caden. He continued, "Ask whether I had a good morning." Caden smiled faintly, his eyes gentle and expectant. Ivna smiled back. Ha ha, yes, guardian. The weather is very nice today. The sky suddenly darkened, and rain poured down in sheets. Ivna shouted, "Everyone get inside quickly. Be careful, the ground is slippery." Rain blurred the world beyond the windows. A voice rang out, "My cloud-like little friends, time is up." Ivna stood at the front of the classroom, holding a stack of papers. "Everyone, take your hands off your answer sheets." A little boy raised both hands. "Teacher, is the exam really over?" Ivna answered gently, "Yes." Everyone worked hard. Ivna walked through the classroom. "Miss Riel, the difficulty of this test was quite good." Ivna smiled. "Are the children in my class doing all right?" As their homeroom teacher, I'm already starting to miss them. Ivna pushed open the door. "Everyone, I'm back." Teacher, you rose excitedly. "Miss Ivna, you're back." Ivna sensed something was wrong. What is it? What's with this ominous atmosphere? The female teacher spoke heavily. "While you were away, one of the students cheated." Ivna's smile froze. Her pupils contracted. A stack of answer sheets slid off the desk and scattered across the floor. Ivna halted in place. "What? Who did it?" Ivna looked at the heavy rain outside the window, her expression resolute. "First, I need to see the children." Raindrops splashed against the ground in ripples. Merlin threw his arms around Ivna. "Miss Ivna, something terrible happened. Majin is crying. What should we do?" Ivna soothed Merlin gently. "It's all right, Merlin." "Majin, I really didn't do it." Majin was in tears. "I didn't write the words on my palm." Majin cried, "I really didn't." A female teacher grabbed Majin's arm. "Then what is this?" The female teacher pride opened Majin's clenched hand. "Majin, if you keep lying, this will only get worse." Red letters were written across Majin's palm. He cried out, "I really don't know. I swear." The female teacher scolded him sharply. "I told you if you lie again, it'll only get worse." Then a hand blocked her. "Assistant." Ivna stood in front of them. "Miss Ivna, you came at the right time. This child cheated and is still refusing to admit it. This is the first time since the kindergarten was founded." Ivna's voice turned cold. "Enough." Merlin and the other children watched from the side. "Cheating on an exam," Ivna said calmly, "is not something the children should be hearing about. Let's discuss this in the office." The female teacher lowered her head in dissatisfaction. The child was obviously the one who had done wrong. So why did it feel like she was the one being scolded? She was only disciplining him out of a sense of responsibility. Meijin bit his lip hard, tears trembling in his eyes. The female teacher challenged Ivna. How can you protect a child like this? Ivna's expression was stern. This concerns the child's emotional state. We will discuss it later at the faculty meeting. The female teacher clenched her fists. Fine. Teacher, just wait and see. Ivna turned around. Meijin, can you tell me what happened? Ivna held Meijin in her arms. His voice trembled. I was just taking the test, and then all of a sudden words appeared on my hand. His eyes filled with tears. It really wasn't me. I swear. Ivna's gaze was firm. All right, go home first. Your teacher will investigate everything. As Ivna watched Meijin leave, an ominous premonition washed over her. It was so clear it gave her a headache. Rain lashed against the kindergarten building. Her instincts told her this would not end here. A newspaper boy ran through the street, holding up a paper and shouting, "Extra, extra, major news." The headline was shocking. Prince Meijin caught cheating. Executor reveals exam fraud. If not for a teacher stepping in, the unspoken rules would already have been broken. The print on the page was blurred, but the seed of scandal had already been planted. The news spread rapidly inside and outside the empire. Ivna sat upright at the table and announced calmly, "First, suspend the processing of His Highness's score." Silence fell over the manor under the clouds. Ivna continued, "Will the guardians oppose this? If we do not invalidate it, they will call it special treatment." The council members listened in silence. Ivna added, "Even if it were any other student, it would be the same." The headmistress spoke. "We must first confirm the truth before deciding whether to invalidate it." A female teacher abruptly stood up. "Headmistress, I risked everything to expose that behavior. I saw the evidence with my own eyes." The headmistress replied, "Teacher Andrea, I understand your concern. The kindergarten will do everything it can to protect you. We all signed an agreement when we joined, guaranteeing that no teacher would face personal retaliation." Andrea lowered her eyes. "Headmistress, I only trust you." Ivna fell in a thought. Andrea was still only a trainee teacher. She could have simply shouted at the child like before. Ivna lowered her head. But why did this uneasy feeling remain? Then she said, "Headmistress, tomorrow happens to be a day off. I will go see Meijin and hear his side again. Until then, please keep this matter confidential." The female teachers nodded. "Of course. We'll be careful." Andrea echoed, "Yes, I'll be careful too, Ave." Ivna fixed her gaze on Andrea. "I'm counting on you, Teacher Andrea." The rain poured down, washing over the estate. The sound of rain was endless. The building stood firm behind the curtain of rain, while Ivna stood silently. She let out a soft sigh. Then a voice came from behind her. Hey, Ivna, is it true? The prince at your kindergarten cheated?" Ivna's face remained expressionless. "You've heard already? Your news is late." She put on her cloak. Her brother spoke up. "Even someone like me, who doesn't care about childcare, knows about it. It's spreading everywhere." Her brother reached out to stop her. "But where are you going on your day off?" Ivna sidestepped him and left. Her brother stared after her retreating figure. That look, her brother looked irritated. "Why pick a fight with me for no reason? Do I look like such an easy target?" Ivna walked forward through the rain, pulling her hood tighter. A man carrying an umbrella ran over. "Teacher Ivna, sorry I'm late, and it's still raining." "Hello, Assistant Devlanto." He raised the umbrella over Ivna, and she asked, "How is the child?" Assistant Devlanto looked downcast. "He cried until dawn yesterday, and then he fainted from exhaustion. Even if he is His Highness the Prince, he's only 5 years old. Seeing him so weak, it's heartbreaking." Ivna walked silently through the rain under the umbrella. "First, may I speak to the child?" The mansion in the gloomy weather was brightly lit. Ivna pushed open a door and peered in through the crack. "Meijin, it's Teacher Ivna." The room was dim. Meijin was curled up on the bed with his back to the door. He suddenly turned over and sat up, staring toward the entrance. He looked utterly exhausted. Ivna hesitated. Perhaps she should let him rest for now. Meijin spoke weakly. "Teacher." Ivna gently stroked his back. "I'm here, Meijin. Have you eaten?" Meijin lifted his head. "I don't want to eat. No one believes me." Ivna comforted him softly. "But you still need to eat properly. Would you like some soup?" Tears burst from Meijin's eyes. "Teacher, I really studied hard." Meijin choked on his sobs. "Sometimes I stayed up even later than my brother. I thought I could get a perfect score." Ivna looked at him. "Meijin." His voice trembled. Then all of a sudden, the letters crawled onto my hand like bugs. It hurt and it felt cold. Ivna listened quietly. He had said the same thing on the day of the exam. Meijin continued. Then everything went black, and the teacher started yelling at me. Ivna answered softly, Teacher understands now. You must be very tired, right? Ivna soothed him gently. It's all right. Teacher is here. Meijin sobbed. Teacher, I really didn't do anything bad. He kept gasping for breath. Ivna's eyes darkened as she lowered her gaze. Ivna looked up again, her gaze firm. Assistant, I want to see His Majesty. The assistant stood at a distance. His Majesty is working. You may have to wait several hours. Ivna replied calmly. That's fine. She turned around. I can wait 10 hours if I have to. Dusk settled over the palace. Beghid opened the office door. You've arrived. Ivna stood inside. Beghid looked at her. You look a mess. Ivna lowered her head slightly. Thank you for your understanding. Complaints, media response. Beghid leaned against the sofa, looking exhausted. No sleep, no rest. No wonder you look so worn out. Changing posture, he added, I asked Meijin as well. Have you eaten? Ivna answered, I already have. Beghid rubbed his temples and closed his eyes. Those insults have exhausted me. He looked straight at Ivna. Did Meijin really cheat? Ivna answered, yes. That is how it appears for now. Beghid said, I understand. Ivna abruptly changed tone, but I think otherwise. A 5-year-old child, no matter how stubborn, if he repeated the same lie over and over, there would eventually be contradictions. But her eyes were unwavering. I believe Meijin. Ivna looked at Beghid. He is not that kind of child. I stake everything on this as his homeroom teacher. She pleaded, so Your Majesty, please believe that child. Only then can we help him. Beghid suddenly stood and walked toward Ivna. Your Majesty. He abruptly pulled her into his arms. Ivna's head came to rest against his shoulder. Beghid gently stroked her hair. Wait, just stay like this. Ivna's thoughts halted. Wait. Her green eyes flickered. Pressed against Beghid's chest, she felt his hand at the back of her neck. Just stay like this. Ivna's cheeks flushed red as she remained quietly in his embrace. Beghid patted her back, soothing Ivna in his arms. It's all right. Everything will be resolved. The two embraced in the light by the window. If Meijin really cheated, what will happen? Will he get a 0 on that subject? Can he still stay in kindergarten? Will he be expelled? There is no kindergarten in the world that would expel a child for something like this. Beghid held Ivna tightly. He patted her back lightly. Then I can bear it, Your Majesty. There are still suspicious parts to Meijin's case. I will investigate it personally. So, Your Majesty, please help Meijin steady himself. Of course. Beghid let go. Teacher, is there anything else you need my help with? Ivna answered, if there is, I will come ask Your Majesty again. Beghid clenched his fist hard. Are you going back now? Ivna replied with a smile, yes. It's getting rather late, and I still have work to finish today. She bowed slightly. Your Majesty, please get some proper rest. Outside, the palace walls rose high, with spires standing in rows. A herald shouted loudly in the square, hear this. The royal family. Ivna's expression changed. What? The herald unrolled a scroll. In light of the doubts cast upon Prince Meijin Gidhade's qualifications, his right of succession is to be stripped. The emperor must establish an empress as soon as possible to stabilize imperial authority. The noble council strongly urges this matter. A storm had already arrived, a storm anyone could foresee. The nobles were trying to use this as an excuse to manipulate the imperial family. Beghid's eyes turned cold. Like rats, they listened day and night. Those bastards found their way into every crack, seizing every chance to bite. Ivna suddenly stopped short. Now I completely understand why you call them rats. How long have they been tormenting a 5-year-old child? Ivna let out a long sigh and turned to leave. Perhaps Meijin had better not go to kindergarten today. The kindergarten building stood grandly in the morning light. Meijin stood inside. His Majesty said we can't run away. Otherwise people will think it's true. Ivna crouched down and looked at him. I understand. If you start feeling unwell, you must tell me first. Meijin lowered his head and answered. Yes. Tears filled his eyes. Thank you, teacher. He lowered his head, then said, but I'm still a prince. He straightened his collar, holding back his tears. Merlin pounced on him from behind. Meijin, are you crying? Meijin turned back in shock. Hey, what are you doing? Get down already, Merlin said loudly. They said you were crying. You really are such a crybaby. Meijin shouted, I'm not. Merlin protested, Meijin, don't cry. You didn't do anything bad. Meijin lowered his eyes. I didn't, but tears slid down Meijin's face. No one believes me. Then a voice rang out. "Oh, I believe you." Majin looked toward the sound. Aristi stood not far away, holding a folding fan. Aristi covered half her face with the fan. "I saw it with my own eyes. Words suddenly appeared on your hand, Majin. So don't lump me together with those ignorant slanderers." Ivna looked at the children. Merlin, that's dangerous." The children were all standing on Majin's side. At least he could feel at ease at kindergarten. Then Ivna's gaze shifted. The pen Majin dropped. Ivna's eyes froze. Her pupils contracted. "Wait, maybe Majin's teacher can borrow this pen for a moment?" Outside the palace, an attendant announced to the palace, "Your Majesty, Teacher Ivna has arrived." Beghid put down the document. "Let her in." Ivna entered the room. "Sorry for coming so suddenly." Beghid replied, "It's all right." "Teacher, what is it? Has kindergarten already ended?" Ivna explained, "I do have some overtime work, but..." Her expression turned serious. "I came because I have something urgent to report. Thank you for making time for me." Majin Gidhade. In the original story, he was always under attack. Countless fingers pointed at his silhouette. The nobles used every means available, even black magic. The peak of that persecution came during a diplomatic negotiation. Majin's pen hovered over the treaty. The phantom of a giant snake coiled around words he had never written, appearing out of thin air. It had all begun with a pen cursed by black magic. The negotiations collapsed because of the nobles' scheme, and now those nobles were acting as arrogantly as they had then. Ivna handed over a feather pen. "Please look at this. This is the pen Majin used on the day of the exam." Beghid took the quill and examined it carefully. "Isn't this just an ordinary pen? Why would this happen?" Ever since the incident, Majin has insisted that midway through the exam, he felt a sharp pain. Right after that, the writing suddenly appeared. Beghid held the quill. "He told me the same thing." Ivna stated solemnly, "So, I suspect black magic." A sharp glint flashed in Beghid's eyes. The outline of the distant palace blurred. Beghid's voice rang out. "I had expected as much." Ivna replied, "As expected. Your Majesty noticed it too." Beghid tightened his grip on the quill. "I killed most of the black magicians, but those rats may have smuggled some out." Beghid asked, "Teacher, do you know why black magic is so vile?" "Because it brings suffering." He pinched the pen shaft, and that's only one part of it. It leaves no trace at all. There's no way to identify the caster. Ivna's thoughts raced. The palace servants, the gardener, the coachman, the cook, everyone who had been near Majin. The kindergarten staff, even the children could be suspects. A chilling coldness filled Beghid's eyes. "If necessary," he said in a voice as icy as a blade, "I may kill them all." Ivna felt a wave of fear. Beghid made no attempt to hide his murderous intent. "Even if it's you, teacher." His words were like a knife driven straight into Ivna's heart.